Hey guys, welcome to Podcast Fandom Premium. I'm your host, Nina.
I'm Donald.
And I'm John.
And we are back to start a brand new show. We're going to be talking about the Marvel miniseries on Disney Plus, Secret Invasion. It dropped on June 21st, a few days ago. We're going to be talking about that first episode titled Resurrection. I believe it is a 6-episode series concluding on July 26th. Warning, I have no notes. Let me give a preemptive fuck you to my co-host for being like, you never have notes, because I do. But I have no notes this time.
I mean, it seems like a lot of times you say, I don't have any notes. But easy way, go ahead.
It is feeling like it is becoming the norm and not the exception. But yeah, interestingly enough for me, like I watched this when this dropped for me, it was like morning. No, it was evening. Because it dropped like, after midnight for you guys, I think, or after 3 a.m. And so I was just like, oh, this is great. I'm gonna order some food, order dinner, and watch this. And that's what I did. And I was like, I don't want to take notes because, I ordered some food and I wanted to be able to just like watch it to enjoy it. And I didn't know when we were going to record, but I knew we would record within a few days of it dropping. We're actually recording this for me in Korea. It's Saturday morning, June 24th. And I wasn't sure if I'd have the time to rewatch it or whatever. And after watching it, I was like, oh, I think I can talk about this without having to watch it again and take notes. And I did watch like half of a reaction to the episode. So I feel like I have it like pretty down, but I don't feel like it needed a lot of notes. I don't know if you guys agree. What? It's just, I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right?
Yes.
About like what happened and everything. So there are a couple of things. I mean, we're going to talk about the episode obviously as a whole. There are a couple of things I wanted to point out. Well, no, actually, I think just one before we begin. I did hear that there was a bit of a hubbub. I don't know, who am I? My grandmother, over the opening credit sequence, which I vaguely, like, I kind of remember what they look like. Because when I heard about this hubbub, I had already watched it and seen the reaction video, but I wasn't really like paying attention to like, I was like, what, why are people upset? And our friend Ryan explained that it's all AI generated.
Yep.
See, but it's not.
But it's not. But what's really funny is, or is it supposed to, was it created to look like it's AI generated?
Well, what the company that made the credits said, and I mean, I don't fucking know, but this is what they said, is that it's AI augmented. So
okay.
They made the credits and then they used AI to fuck with it.
Got it.
So like they used AI. That was the defense that they had when people were started to like complain. Like they came out and they said, no, like nobody lost their job being replaced by AI, make these credits. We made the credits with all the artists that we have, and then we used AI to fuck with the way it looked.
Got it.
So that part that made it okay for me. Like that's the part where I think that's the gray area with AI is like if you're using AI to replace people, don't fucking do that.
Right,
but like
right.
using AI as like a tool,
and it feels, and it's
fine.
A purposeful tool, right? Because of what the show is about. It's not like, right? My assumption, it's not to do it just for shits and giggles, right? Like,
yeah,
because I don't know,
like,
as an artist, I would feel like, okay, great. I'm glad you hired me to do a job. And on the one hand, you would think, I don't give a fuck what you do with it after I created it for you, you paid me. But on the other hand, it's like, that's not what I created, but whatever. Do you know, like I could get like both sides of that. But at the same time, I thought the purpose was because when Ryan told me what the deal was, the hubbub, our friend Alex then commented that I forget like the first part of his sentence. He was like, but then you have in a Marvel produced show something that looks like this. And it was a screenshot from the opening sequence of two people shaking hands, and it looked like a scroll. Like it was like this green hand shaking another hand. And we all know the issue that AI has with hands.
Mm-hmm.
So it looked really bad. But I thought that would have been like the purpose when it's like the point of the show is not knowing what's real and what your eyes can trust, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I thought that it made sense to me when when I saw that screenshot and I heard what the issue was. It made sense to me that they did it. Now, you telling me that it was augmented, it makes even more sense to me. But, you know, everybody has opinions.
Yeah.
It didn't bother me. It
Yeah, I
doesn't.
mean that's the part like I watch Corridor Digital, which is people may recognize them as the company that recently put out the anime rock paper scissors video that used AI in this similar way.
Mm,
That it basically they used AI to augment live action scenes that they filmed to make it look animated.
mm.
Basically automating like a rotoscope.
Right.
And like so like that feels like the thing that like the like digital artists are doing. You know what I mean? Like the people who actually are working on movies and on CGI and shit. Like that's how they're using AI
Got
in
it.
these situations where like and that kind of stuff I don't really have a problem with because I mean just listening to the way that they talk about it like I think there's a very different conversation right to be had around the things that like the WGA are
Mm-hmm.
arguing against studios for to like not replace writers with AI or not take something that was written by someone and change it with AI.
Got it.
Right?
Yeah.
Like that, I
Yeah.
think that's, and I don't think that's what happened here. That's what I want to be clear. Like, I think that the people who made the opening credits are the artists who then used AI
Mm-hmm.
to augment it. You know, like
Got it.
I don't think that they got art from
An
someone
artist, and
who,
then Marvel
and then
themselves changed it.
yeah,
Right.
and then
Right.
the company was like, no, we're gonna change this behind your back. I think it's a very it's I look at it similar to it's the way that I look at the introduction of AI into filmmaking is kind of like handheld camcorders, you know, back in like the fucking 60s.
Mm-hmm.
Back when like studios had to have like 4 or 5 people on each camera, these large cameras, they had to have studio space to film a movie because they had this large ass camera. And then they were able to introduce the use of handheld cameras. And then you could have a camera and studios, when they're making a studio movie, could use that to just enhance their movie, right? Where you can put a handheld camera like in the back seat of a car, something you couldn't have done with a large camera before that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, it aids in the democratization of filmmaking in that someone at home, namely someone like Steven Spielberg, can get like a Super 8 camera and make movies in their backyard. And do it without having to have studio space and a large camera and a crew, you know, like that
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing. And I feel like AI kind of is the same sort of thing, similar to like you look at drones, right? Like the way that, you know, studios are using drones
Mm-hmm.
to get footage that they used to need to have like a helicopter. You know, they have
Mm-hmm.
to rent a
Yeah.
helicopter to get that kind of footage. But they're also using drones in new ways that just they're able to do because they're a studio film. So you have like Michael Bay using drones in a, the way Michael Bay would use a drone. And then you have at the same time, like
To
you
fly
can
over
have,
some young pretty girl as she stares up at the sky as like some giant transformer falls out of it, that type of shit.
in a
Or a car
waterfall.
goes barreling over her. I'm sorry.
No, literally, like in a movie, he had a drone fly through like a highway scene, and then a car they CGI'd a car that the drone flew through. So the camera went through a car accident.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's admittedly cool.
Mhm.
But like that's the way that you can do it when you're in a studio and you have, $1 million to spend on a scene.
Right.
But you can also, if you're just an indie filmmaker, like either like someone with, $100,000 or someone with $100, right? Like you can use a drone to make to film a scene that you otherwise wouldn't be able to, or like a phone, right? Like you can make fucking Tangerine, that movie, if you just
Right.
use the right accessories to put on your iPhone, like, and you can film a movie that looks like an actual movie, right? So like that's how I look at AI and the good way in which it can be used, right? Like the way that if you want to use AI to create something that like otherwise you personally would not be able to create because you're one person trying to make a movie, that's one thing. And then obviously I would say you would use an ethical AI, something that was trained on, things that were not stolen, like some of the AI engines out there that were trained on, copyrighted images that weren't, that nobody got permission to use, right? Like I would say, don't use that. Obviously, that's a problem. But the use of AI in itself, I think, is okay.
Yeah. I
And
agree.
the way that it seems that they used it here seems fine to me. Like it
Yeah.
seems like they used it as a tool that they use as their company, and they are an Oscar nominated or winning visual effects company. Like they were just nominated for the Top Gun movie. I
Oh,
think
really? Mm.
yeah, I think it was Top Gun Maverick that they worked on. So like
Look,
I mean
I welcome our AI overlords. So
exactly, like I think that go for it, right? I mean, obviously, I could change my mind if like it evolves more, right? And you see the more ways in which it's being used. But right
Yeah.
now, like this, I think is fine. This, particularly this opening sequence, I'm okay with. Assuming they're not lying about how they did it, like assuming that they're not full of shit.
Yeah. Really quickly, I'm sorry, we will go back to the show in a second, but I just realized that there was something I did want to talk about, kind of shooting the shit wise, and it's those motherfuckers in that submarine or submersible. Just really quickly. What the fuck? That's it. That's all. Like, what the fuck?
They're not in it
If
anymore.
I, Jesus, John.
Did you just find out? I don't know.
No, I know. I'm just like, Jesus. Um,
It's like
uh,
that headline. That headline was like, what did like this? What was it? What fuck was it? The Los Angeles Times or the Washington Post? And they were like, this guy
who knew no bounds
knew no bounds until he
until he
found
did.
one. Yeah, and it's like,
It was basically this guy who fucked around and found out.
yeah,
He kept fucking around until he found out. Um, so if you don't know, if you've been living under a rock or perhaps in a submersible, let me stop. Um, there was this company, Oceansgate, that
yeah.
was selling an experience in this man-made submersible that was they were selling for 250K bucks per ticket. I think the thing could hold about 5 or 6 people, and it would take you down a little more than 12,000 feet uh, under the sea to see the Titanic wreckage. And we all know that I am not very good with like measurements and shit, which is why I will order something on Amazon and it'll show up at the house way bigger or way smaller. And I am now in Korea, which uses a completely different metric system. And I'm just in a taxi and they're like, kilometer. And I'm like, okay, we're, oh, they're like, obek kilometer. And I'm like, obek is 500, but what kilometers translate to in miles or feet or whatever. But anyway, so they went down in this thing and to so that you understand, and I don't pretend to understand a lot of the mechanics behind it, but it's my understanding that they were bolted in, so there's like no way for them to open like a door to get out if something happened. There's like one little porthole window. It's my understanding that there's like a curtained off area where you can go piss in a Ziploc bag if you needed to go. And I think the whole thing, what? And this is the
Nothing.
first time this was done. This is just the first time that it imploded and killed some folks. But this is all information coming from the company and people who unfortunately stupidly did this before. Um, piss in a Ziploc bag, and I believe the whole excursion was like a 12-hour thing. It's supposed to be 12 hours from submersion to reemergence or whatever you want to call it. Um, and so they lost contact with it. I want to say less than 2 hours, a little more than an hour into the journey. The company lost contact with the vessel, and it
Good
was
journey.
this uh like rescue operation, and of course there were people discussing it and joking about it because it's like, fuck billionaires, and like, what are you doing, and the world's on fire and people are homeless and starving or unhoused and starving, and you're spending 250,000 to just be an idiot, right? And then we
Mm-hmm.
we learned that the CEO was one of the people on board, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then there was a Pakistani businessman and his 18 or 19, I think 19-year-old son who did not want to go. He was on board. So that's three of them. And I think one or two other people, one or two other rich men. And we find out that the Coast Guard knew when it happened, what happened. Because apparently, when things go boom in the ocean, they make a lot of noise. So if
Hmm.
you want to know, like if a tree falls in the wood, there's nobody there to hear it, does still make noise. It's like that shit imploded a little more than an hour into the trip down, and the Navy or something they picked it up, the noise of that happening,
Mm-hmm.
and yet there was still all of this speculation for like throughout some of the week, right? Of they have about 40 hours of oxygen left. Like there's like this possibility. But it's weird because it's like they notified the company, the military did, that this was what they heard and this was probably the case. And I just find it weird and kind of gross that the company was on I think it was like the CCO of the company was on Facebook, and he was just like, I'm going to try to go to bed and get a few hours sleep, but when I wake up in the morning, I better have answers from the right people. Basically, just concerned and calling out the Coast Guard and stuff, people not doing enough for rescue um, attempts or whatever, and to find out later that they were notified almost immediately that, hey, this thing probably went boom. It's just kind of gross, and it feels like a company being, being the type of company that has an unethical billionaire at the head of it. It just sounds par for the course,
Yeah.
right? And then you find out that
I mean,
they had,
that's redundant.
right. They found out that they had basically ignored a whole bunch of safety concerns. And again, there were jokes, right? Like the thing was operated by this like Logitech uh, general type of game controller that you can get on Amazon. I don't know if you guys saw somebody did an Amazon review of that controller.
No, I didn't see that.
Oh my
Mm-hmm.
God. It was just basically like how it, fucked up their trip or whatever. And the worst, I mean, it's so like just dark humor to like these jokes about it. And a lot of them are just really funny. But the best part about the Amazon review is that like so far, like when I saw it, like 3,000 people found this review helpful. Um, there's another one. It's like this is what the captain handed out when they realized what was about to happen, and it's just the Nintendo gun from Duck Hunt.
Hmm.
Shit like that. But apparently, I don't know. And again, I don't know if you guys, the point I was getting to before with like me and measurements, like I needed to see exactly what 12,000 feet under the sea looks like. Like what, how deep is that? And so there have been a lot of little video presentations, basically explaining like, well, if you invert the Statue of Liberty and the Empire State Building and Mount Everest, and then like showing you like how deep it is, and then there's another one showing like what lives down there, right? Like this is where this whale goes to hunt giant squid, and this is like the there's like one area, and all of these uh sections of depth under the ocean has names, right? And they're like, once you get down here, like there's no light at all, it's just dark, and they're like these eyeless shrimp, like
Hmm.
because animals are going to adapt to their environments. Like we can't see, we don't need to see, so it's just like a bunch of shrimp with no eyes down there, and like all kinds of stuff. And as Kaylee is fond of reminding me, we have explored more of space than we have our own ocean. There's just shit down we just don't know.
Mhm.
um and they have like the where James Cameron took his I'm assuming much better made submersible down there, and then you have like different treks and
That's
stuff, the deepest that people have gone. These motherfuckers were trying to go in
Where people
something.
haven't gone. Like
Well,
they
but they have, but like not in that. Like,
yeah, that's the part is like why do you need a new thing? Like
right,
why, you fucking billionaire moron, do you have to go, "Oh, I'm going to make a new fucking Tesla. I mean boat."
right.
Like why
To,
do
to
you
make more
have to be
money,
the one?
to make
Like
more money, to sell it to other fucking idiots with too much money. And so,
yes.
because I mean, there is underwater footage of the Titanic wreckage. Like, you can get down there, but you don't get down there in a tuna can.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
you could send robots down there, and that's what James Cameron did. They sent submersibles down there that had cameras on them. Like they
Right. That's what
personally
I'm
did not
saying.
go
Like,
down.
why you need to put your ass in something and go down there is just, and as our friend Moji said, I don't want to hear anything about K-pop stans being the craziest, because apparently there are Titanic stans that have just lost their fucking minds, because the Pakistani businessman who went down there, apparently he's just been fascinated with the Titanic most of his life since he was a kid.
You know who
Um,
else was fascinated with the Titanic? The fucking people who died on it.
right.
Like
It's
they
so
were the
gross.
ones
It's
there. Yeah,
so,
they were like, "Hey, I'm gonna ride on this fucking ship," and then you see what happened to them, and they weren't
and
even under the water to start
and
with.
the whole idea that once again, when stuff like this happens, it's like the difference in like reaction to it. Like, of course, there's like a lot of white folks that are like, this isn't funny, and da 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 da. And then just because they're rich, they don't deserve to die. And it's like, no one said that. No one is saying, well, at least I'm not saying walk up to billionaires and put a hot one in their head. I wasn't saying that. But they put themselves in that position. Like, they did that. They went in this, they saw what that shit looked like. They
Hmm.
understood that they were pissing in a Ziploc bag for $250,000. They decided there is some level of just hubris of people with money, particularly white people with money, that think that this every space is meant for them. And they don't, and I saw someone on Twitter put it very well, where it's like you can't talk to people who, the whole getting married on a plantation mindset, like that's a thing to do, about how ghoulish it is to go. It's not just a shipwreck, it's the
Hmm.
grave site of folks. Like, this is so disgusting and gross, but this is the morality of people when I personally think, when you have that much money, plus the whiteness of it all. You get this CEO who thinks this is a thing to do. Like, again, why do we need new things? We don't. He wanted to make more money. He wanted to be a discoverer, and so here we are. And then I saw another video that shows exactly what that looks like. And I guess the humane part of it is that apparently they wouldn't have suffered. Like they didn't even know, they probably still don't know they're dead. Like it just happened.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently, like the first of like the heat that occurs right before this shit happens, you know, if that doesn't get you the instant, crushing like a soda can, definitely did. And, it's sad in that it's human life lost so stupidly. But it's, again, these were people who made it. I feel bad for the teenager who apparently didn't want to go.
Mm-hmm.
But the trip fell over Father's Day weekend. And he's like, and I was like, I won't even let Donnie take my kids on roller coasters.
Mm-hmm.
Because let me find out Donnie takes one of them kids to Great Adventures and and something happens on the thing. I will kill you dead. So there's no fucking way. I don't care how much money you have. You're taking my son down in a tuna can to go see that. Like, it's just.
And that's the thing about this is that apparently, and I'll say apparently and allegedly because I don't know the facts, but apparently they knew how unsafe it was. And like someone had been a whistleblower saying, hey, this shit's not safe.
I saw that.
And apparently like the CEO was like, fuck that. And so like the people who chose to do this, whether it was the father and son or anyone else, like they knew there was a risk, but I would assume they didn't know how dangerous this was because that guy didn't tell them. Because that guy didn't say, hey, we had this guy over here telling us this thing was really unsafe, and the exact thing that's going to happen, he said was going to happen. I assume the CEO didn't tell them all of that.
No. And then you
so,
see
like,
there's
they
the
weren't
one
even
guy
making
who...
an informed decision.
No. And then you have the one guy who, I don't know if you saw the interview with him where he was, he said that he had bought a ticket, but he backed out because he had concerns, and asked for a refund. Sent them an email. Was like, nah,
Mm-hmm.
That's gonna be a no for me, dog.
Yeah, and that's we recently talked about, right? Like you mentioned James Cameron, and like the technology that has been furthered because of James Cameron, and the fact that he's used, and just like we were talking about, like with AI, even like AI is the same kind of way. Is like if you can find a commercial use for something, like James Cameron using his undersea shit to like be funded by a movie that's going to make $1 billion like Avatar, then you can further like the technology that is used. And that's what James Cameron has done, and James Cameron has done it the right way. And I'm no James Cameron fan, but he's done it the way that you should do it. And so that's why he's not fucking dead.
Right.
I mean, that's just it's a very callous way to put it, but that's
no, it's the truth though.
He's done it the right way, and that's why he's able to give an interview after this happens and be like, "Hey, I don't know what to tell you. I did it.
I do it like that."
Exactly. I mean, that's basically what he said. And it's just, and I mean, in that very James Cameron way of being blunt about the things that he says. And I mean, that's just the way it is. Like if you cut corners and like everybody wants to be upset about regulations and being told, this is for
they don't want to hear
safety.
no.
And
right. They don't
exactly.
want to. You want to do what you want to do the way you want to do it. And a lot of us are like that. You don't like being told no, but
everybody wants to complain about the government and big government and large government. Oh, I want small government, until it comes to, oh wait, Ocean Gate got $450,000 in a PPP loan. Well, who the fuck would have guessed that from the company that didn't want to listen to them, tell them how to, to regulate their fucking submersible thing to fucking make it safe. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
They don't like the government unless the government's giving them money.
Listen, the final thing I will say is every place ain't for us. And I don't understand why. If you're like a scientist and you believe that there, like I said, there's parts of the ocean, the depths of the ocean that doesn't get sunlight and that gets to certain degrees. If for some fucking reason, and I'm not this smart, but if you're a scientist who thought, you know, because of those conditions and the way algae and the green and maybe we could get something that could possibly help cure cancer. Like, I'm all for that. But like, that's not what y'all are doing. It's just like, let's just go down here and see what's down there. And like, like again, informed
Mm-hmm.
decisions. Like, it's like, there's no reason. There's nothing down there for us. Nothing.
Right.
When
What I'll
I was
say.
looking at the video of like they were explaining like the different types of known sea life.
Mm-hmm.
I almost said wildlife, but it's basically the same thing, right? That is down there, that is known, and how they're just depths of like they don't know. It's like, why are people? For me, it's just like a level of just again like that whole white colonizing spirit. This idea that these spaces are meant for you. That it's
Yeah,
okay.
like
It's like,
manifest destiny.
yeah, it's like, no, 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 no. Why are y'all doing that? Like, anyway.
Yeah, and like the one thing that I'll say about it is like I have zero problem with someone who like wants to go places. You know what I mean? Like the idea of like, oh, like I would go to space. You know what I mean? Like if I had an opportunity to go to space, I would totally do it. The same way that I would get on an airplane. But I didn't get on the fucking Wright brothers airplane. You know what I mean? Like, and that's, I won't even fucking update my operating system until it's been out for a few months because there's always bugs. And it's like, and being an early adopter of technology is one thing, right? Like, oh, I bought the first iPhone. Okay, like you're gonna run into some problems probably, but you're not gonna die from it. But like trying to be like the first one who fucking goes, like, I don't want to do that shit. Like what? Like that's so dangerous and so like unnecessary, especially if you're a fucking billionaire. Like why do you need to do things? Like and if I were a billionaire, number one, we've talked about that, I wouldn't be a billionaire. But if I had a lot of money, I would just be like non-existent. Like I just would not be a person. I would just live like in silence for the rest of whatever my life is.
Not like the stepson. You wouldn't be out there, Blink 182 and.
Well, I mean, I might want to, I might go
shaking dick, as Carly called
it. Chasing some OnlyFans girls.
Oh my god.
Yeah. I might be like, yeah. Pray for my family and also sit on my face, that kind of stuff. Like.
Also, really quickly, and I guess this will lead back to Secret Invasion and Marvel and stuff. I just was scrolling through Twitter and I saw scrolling through Twitter. You caught me. And there's this post about San Diego Comic-Con, and I guess let me see if I can find it again. Disney, Marvel Studios, and Lucasfilm are not planning any panels at Comic-Con. HBO isn't going, nor are Sony Pictures and Universal Studios. Netflix, which just held this massive Tadum fan event in Brazil, is also sitting out San Diego Comic-Con this year. So this is from Variety. Good. I haven't read the article. But it says Comic-Con crisis, Marvel, Netflix, Sony, HBO, and Universal to skip SDCC as Fest faces another existential threat. Is it me? The reason I brought this up is it me, or does it feel like post-COVID so many things are just changing?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like people are like trying to go back to normal, and it's like, wait, we can't do that because things are different. And so now things are having to change.
I think a lot of that was starting just before COVID even hit, though. I felt like Disney always had their D23 before COVID, and they even the gaming conventions, like people started doing their own. Like Microsoft would do their own for Xbox, PlayStation would do their own. Like Nintendo does these Nintendo Directs every fucking like 3 months. But these companies out there are just doing. So
you're saying like a something where like a convention like Comic Cons where you're expecting. Well, I think San Diego Comic Con is just a little bit different because like that whole thing is where people expected like announcements and big
Right.
appearances.
That's
Where other
changed.
conventions like Rose City Comic Con, those types of
Right.
things, you were just it's just like who's going to be there,
Yes.
what type
And
of
that's
panels, and
it's
who can I get like autographs from? Like
right.
those
And that's
things.
what it's going back to. Like
Yeah, I
I
was gonna
feel
say those
like
things don't seem to be hit as hard.
right.
But like this the event of it all with the San Diego Comic Con. I don't know. It just I'm old enough to feel like I've lived through seeing a lot of things kind of come and go. Or things just end that, were around before I was born, but like to see them end is like we've talked about this, like soap operas. Like it's a weird kind of, I don't know. Have you guys like, is there anything that you were either really into or whatever that just kind of like faded or just became like extinct, that even if you weren't into it, because I stopped watching
Happiness.
soap operas before they fell off really, so it wasn't as hard.
Saturday
But
morning cartoons.
yeah, like stuff like that, like it's a weird feeling to think about those types of things that don't really exist anymore.
Used to have like your nights of TV, like Friday nights, like the
Yeah,
Friday night
yeah,
TVs would be the hot night or Thursday. They always had the
yeah, yeah, yeah,
specific
yeah,
night
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
Sunday nights. All that's changed.
Well,
Like you don't have that
Well, we
anymore.
we had it we have it a little bit with things like HBO, right?
Right.
Like HBO
HBO is
was
it.
smart enough to, yeah, they kind of like HBO and AMC kind of jumped on it where they Sunday night was the night for your quote unquote prestige television. They were all competing for that to the point like remember when things would end, we were like, okay, what are we gonna do with our Sunday nights now? Like when a season of Game of Thrones ended or whatever.
hmm
But like, yeah, Saturday morning cartoons, soap operas, it's so, and now it feels like these big conventions, it's like it's kind of weird seeing stuff die, you know.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it everything is contracting. Everything, it feels like we are, I mean, it's so odd to have gone in like from 2019, right? And everybody was like, "Oh, we're going into the Roaring Twenties again,"
Hmm.
and it was like, "Oh, do you mean that the Roaring Twenties?" Like everybody was like, "Do you remember what happened in the 20s?" And everybody like, it led to the Depression and all that stuff. And it was like, yeah, 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 we're gonna do the Roaring Twenties this time, and everybody was just kind of saying that, and like we're kind of going into it. Like we are kind of
Hmm.
doing it.
Hmm.
And I mean, and it's just into a larger scale. And I mean, not even just like, I don't mean to, it is hard to like the gallows humor, right? About people who died. Like that's not,
Hmm.
but at the same time, like, yeah, like billionaires shouldn't exist. Like fucking change your life.
Hmm.
But, uh, you see like the wasting of this money of $1 million for 5 people, or 4 people, whatever.
Hmm.
And like you see that, and then you look on the other side of it and like, oh, like most people can't afford rent, and like there's a housing crisis that is just getting worse and worse, and it's getting made worse by capitalism and the fact that all these billionaires keep fucking buying all the fucking property that nobody else
Hmm.
can fucking buy, and then they
Hmm.
get converting it into short-term rentals like Airbnbs and shit that are ruining the long-term rental market. Like all of these things that like are destroying like the middle class that everybody keeps, saying that we
Hmm.
need. All of those things, and just like to go back to the convention stuff, like it's that kind of stuff that is going away. Like this kind of stuff where it's like people can't afford to spend $5,000 for 2 nights to go to a fucking Star Wars pretend world. So they
Yeah,
fucking
yeah, yeah,
closed
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Like they launched that as if people could afford it. Like people can't fucking afford that, and they were like, well, we're gonna lose money if we keep it open, so they're fucking closing it. And it's the same kind of thing as like you see it with streaming, where you like they're like, oh, let's spend $1 billion a year making whatever the hell we want to make, and then they're not able to pay for it because like what are they gonna do? Charge more money for Netflix? They're going to charge more money for HBO. and so they have to, if they want to make money, and of course the CEOs like David Zaslav, they're not going to make less money. Like they're going to
Yeah.
keep making a
Yeah.
$250,000. So it's just like all of these things, all of them are part of the same problem, and it's that we're furthering the gap between people who have money and people who don't have money,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, you're gonna see things that just don't exist anymore because most people who like would like go into them, right? Like who would fund them, the people like the thousands of people who would go to San Diego Comic Con can't fucking afford it anymore.
Yeah,
And it
because you're
just
right, because it's one thing if they could maybe moved it and did it in different cities so that some people could afford to go locally one year. But,
mhm.
you got folks flying out there every time. And because it is the time that it is, that's when the hotels ain't giving you a break
Mm-mm.
on pricing and stuff like that. So neither are the airlines. So you're spending money for that and then the tickets and then the food while you're there. And then some people, are putting money
Yeah.
into cosplay and yeah, and all the stuff
And at
that
the
the expense that comes with traveling. Yeah.
Yeah, and at the same time, you have companies that are not making money, and so those companies are not hiring people, and those companies are not like you're seeing these things like the entire economy contracting to what will probably be a recession if something's not done. But then at the same time, we're celebrating record job numbers. But
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
it's fucking frustrating because we celebrate like job numbers that are empty,
Hmm.
that mean relatively nothing, because we don't talk about underemployment and the fact that you may have a job but you need three fucking jobs to afford anything.
Right. Right.
Like you can't afford to live on the one job that you have, and there aren't three fucking jobs for everybody to have.
Let's rob a bank.
Yeah, fuck it. Let's steal the Declaration of Independence.
Fuck it. Let's do it.
Yes.
Donnie has watched those
I'm
movies.
that
We
free.
can figure it out. At
It's,
this point, like, no, seriously, at this point, I am open to any kind of illegal activity,
mhm.
immoral or not. Oh my God. Um,
Hey, if anybody out there has $250,000, I've got a bathtub.
I'll hold you underwater. That's your kink. Hey, listen, I would even do some sex work. Listen, I'm gonna start my foot OnlyFans when I get home. Do you like broken foot fetish?
Do you like scars?
Yes. Have y'all seen David Cronenberg's fucking Crash?
All right.
James Spader rubbing on those fucking scars.
Oh my God. I'm seriously, when I get home, I'm gonna roll in the dough, okay? The next time we travel, it'll be all of us going on a vacation paid for by my feet.
Through
Um,
the courtesy of Nina's feet.
yes.
Like fucking Flintstones.
Yes. And now I hear that little sound
Uh,
that
how's that for a fucking reference? Everybody, okay, boomer. Like, fucking,
I feel like if there's
like,
somebody listening that did not get that reference, I just need you to unsub. Like, I'll take the
yeah,
monthly hit and the income. Just
yeah.
go away, because seriously.
If she didn't get that reference, she's too young for you, bro. If you don't know the lyrics to the Flintstones, come on.
Speaking of, really quickly, I swear we'll talk about this show. I just got so annoyed this morning because, like, I think we talked about this before. Like, I can like things like podcast reaction channels, and they don't have to be perfect. I'm perfectly capable, though, of critically analyzing like the things that I like and be like, I wish they were better at this. And recently, my
Okay.
favorite, what?
So, okay.
Okay, my favorite um Core 4 TV Reacts, they got called out. Um, and in the comment section on their Patreon, someone was like, God, why do y'all have to sexualize everything or whatever? And I think that this is, to me, like a thing that a lot of men just don't learn and don't even realize what it is that they're doing. Like, I think certain men feel like they have to be sexual. Like they just makes, and I don't know if it's like an age thing, because I feel like the two channels that I'm thinking of where the men do this around the same age. But like, I podcast with two men and y'all don't do that. Like every now and again, we may make like if somebody says a number and it's 69 in it, we'll be like, because we're idiots, right? Like but like we don't.
And like that's an age thing, and like I don't think 69 is any funny anymore to young
It
people.
really isn't. It isn't. That's the thing though. Like it's almost like we know we're being corny. We're
Mm-hmm.
doing it, right? Like I said, there are things like when I'm gonna warn you guys that you're being recorded, or when I do Facebook lives and I hold things up and then I hold my hand behind it, like the fucking YouTubers do. Like I know I'm not doing anything, but I do it because it's so silly. It's like that, or like a that's what she said. But I'm talking about like scenes where, well, first of all, men, and this is, I don't know if you have a reaction channel, if you're listening to this, or you watch reaction channels. These are things I'm talking about. Men, you don't have to comment on the looks of every female character. You don't. They're like the age, like, oh, she could get it, or she's hot, or oh, who's this? Like sometimes it's meant to be that way. Like if you have a shot where the first thing you see are these sexy high heels, and then it's like this big reveal up her body to see, and it reveals it's like some gorgeous woman in the scene. You're meant to be like, ooh, right? Like that's the purpose of it. But there'll just be like any woman, the fucking extra delivering the coffee, or or anytime a female character is eating and putting something in her mouth. You don't, what that mouth do? Like, stop. Just fucking stop. So it's to the point where,
There goes my notes for this.
thank you. It is twice now with the same thing where one of the channels that I watch, they've been covering a lot of K-dramas recently, and they're getting into K-pop. So it's two guys and a girl, and the girl has been,
Pizza Place.
Jesus Christ. The girl has been guiding them, like giving them suggestions on like K-pop stuff. And one of them tweeted recently some new groups that they're going to check out. And I think they were all girl groups, if I remember. But the last one was New Jeans, and they are a group on BTS's label. They're fairly new. I happen to think they're great. And they have this song, check it out if you're interested. It's called OMG, Oh My God. It's a fucking bop. But they're all underage. These are teenage girls, right? And both with the Core 4 channel and this channel that I'm talking about now, your boy Rock Lee, someone was like, oh, just warning you, they're minors. And I was like, why are we conditioned to warn these grown-ass men? You wouldn't need to do that if they didn't sexualize every female that is on screen. Like, to me, and I put it this way, if somebody recommended a show to us to cover, and then another person felt the need to come and tell you and Donnie, by the way, the girls in this show are minors, just FYI, that means that that John and Donnie, you guys have a habit of sexualizing women, that somebody has to warn you, don't do it to these because these are children. Why is that the case? So I said something. I was like, how about, I don't know, just don't sexualize every female that is on, every female character, every woman or girl that you're reacting to. And I am private, so your boy Rock Lee responded, and he was like, well, it's no problems, no worries. We'll just stick to adult groups. Like, I don't think either he wasn't getting it or he was like deflecting, like he was trying to act like he didn't get it. But then the person who wrote it was like, they couldn't see my tweet because I'm protected. They were like, I can't see the original tweet, but I just want to say that it has nothing to do with their music. It's just that I don't want to see them sexualized. So I went off private, and I'm currently off private so that this person can see my responses. Then I'm going to go back. But I was like, oh no, I know exactly what you meant. And that's the problem. Because, and then all the stuff that I just said to you guys, I responded. I was like, I co-host a podcast with two men, and I would be disgusted if one of our listeners felt the need to warn them that this show has attractive minors in it or young girls in it that they may find attractive, and they know they have a habit. Like, it's disgusting. And you should just stop. And I've been open, like when someone called out Core 4 TV, like I responded because one person was like, well, I find it funny. And I was like, well, are you simple or are you 12? Like, and then I deleted it because that was mean. But it's like, you have been conditioned to think that this is okay. Like there was one scene in Vincenzo, which is a really great K-drama on Netflix that everybody should watch. And the character is a woman. She's a lawyer. She sat back in the chair and she like had her head back. Like if you're imagine like when you go to the salon and they're washing your hair, right? So you're sitting with your head back into the sink. She was like tired after work and she sat there and she had her head back like that and she was thinking. And one of the guys asked the other guy, you ever got head like that? Like, why? Why? Why is that a thing that, like if you didn't do that to every woman or girl character that came across your screen, no one would have to feel the need to warn you that you're about to consume content that contains minors. And we are so conditioned that warning them is the way to go, as opposed to saying, hey, I like your channel. You guys pick up on things. Sometimes you're funny with your reactions. I enjoy all of this, but maybe not do this. And one of the guys has a daughter who's like younger than Jack. And I want to so ask him, like when your daughter is like 16, 17, 18, like, would you be okay with her going back and watching these reactions? Because it looks like you just degrade women. You objectify women constantly. And it's like, just do better, be better. So anyway, that's it. I just wanted to bring that up because again, I would be so like, it wouldn't just happen. I would not allow that on this show. And I know I just can't see myself getting to that place where I would have a male co-host on a regular basis who did shit like that. But if that were the case, I cannot imagine one of our listeners. I would feel like such shit if they were like, oh, we just got to warn you. Or if you have to warn them not to be racist about something, or it's just, so gross. So gross.
And that, I mean, and the big thing is like with that is when you ask them, oh, how would you feel about your daughter seeing this? So often they're like, oh, it's not a problem. Like my daughter knows that I respect, like all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And like, it's the lack of self-awareness.
Yes.
And it's a lack of, I mean, and it betrays a lack of like autonomy and what's the word? Like you don't think that your daughter is smart. Like you don't
Right.
think that your daughter gets what you're doing.
Right.
And you think that you can trick her into believe what I say, not what I do. And it's like, no, well, she sees what you're doing.
Right. And that's my thing was, if you are not that's not who you are, then why are you playing that on the internet? Because this is who you are. This is who we think you are, because this is every fucking reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just, and it's lazy like that. I mean, that's, I mean, when you look at the, like, why do you do it every time? And it's just because it's low hanging fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's the thing that you can just, this is a joke I can make when I'm trying to talk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, be more self-aware. Don't say the first thing that comes to your mind.
Now, it's so funny because the channel I was just talking about, he just tweeted 11 minutes ago. And my 3 weeks of listening to K-pop and picking out my favorites, there's one woman, and he puts that in all caps, that keeps standing out. Hwasa. And that's she's in Mamamoo, and it's my favorite. One of my favorite K-pop groups is Mamamoo, and she's actually my bias in Mamamoo. But I find it funny that he was like woman, because he know, and it's just like, but you wouldn't have to do that if you just, I don't know. And then I said that, I was like, so now you're missing out on content that can bring eyes to your channel because you can't watch a 3-minute video without sexualizing women. Like, really, it's a 3-minute music video. Just watch the fucking video. Just don't be a perv. Like, why do people have to warn you? Like, it's so ridiculous. I just want men to be better sometimes, especially men that I actually like. And again, like their content. It's just like, And that's why I try to uplift the few channels that I watch that I just don't have that issue with. Like, I did not watch Abbott Elementary, but I watched it through this reaction channel. It's three white guys. They sit there, they manage to talk without missing things. They're funny. They have great conversations at the end, and they don't sexualize women. Like, they may be like, oh, she's pretty. Oh, go for it, Gregory, or something like that. But it's within the story. It's because Gregory is trying to get this girl, or this girl is flirting with Gregory. It's not every woman that walks into the scene. It's like, ooh, who's this? But, it's just like, grow the fuck up. Men are so obsessed with their dicks. Like, way more than like.
Well, there's no problem with that. It's all
yeah, like this, Jesus Christ. Like, oh my God, she could get it. Well, what makes you think she wants to give it to you? Anyway.
Right? That's the thing. That's what I never understand. It's like, why are you saying something to, like, oh yeah, and it's like, she doesn't want it.
Right.
She's never thought about it.
9 times out of 10, it's like, you could not get it. So stop. Like, you could not get that. Just stop. Just stop. All right. So let's talk about the show. I'm very curious to know what you guys thought. Like I said, I feel like this is going to be a very straightforward, probably not very long conversation. Donnie, I'll start with you because you've been the quietest as normal, silent D. What did you think?
I enjoyed it. It was.
Oh,
it was.
I'm sorry. I thought you were gonna shit on it.
No. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect going into it, and I had forgot a lot about the Skrulls and stuff like that. So I ended up watching Captain Marvel yesterday, just kind of.
I wanted to do the same. Yeah.
Yeah, just kind of refresh my memory on their Talos and the relationship with him and Fury, and just kind of what happened to them and stuff like that. And so that explained some stuff to me, what they're dealing with. So I just just the premise of the show and what they can do with it, I think it's pretty cool. Like they're just, it's gonna be almost like a buddy cop type of show, I guess, at this point.
Especially since they fucking killed off Maria Hill.
Right, and you killed off the two you killed off Coulson early on in the Avengers, and they kill off Maria Hill here. It's like, who do we have left?
It feels like, again, as we were talking about earlier, like end of an era type shit. It's like
Shield's definitely done now.
Like, Jesus Christ, that I don't know. I don't give really a fuck about the character nor the actress, but like it did kind of hit. Like, oh, okay, we're seriously moving on. Like, things are so, like, people have just been dying left and right in the MCU.
I will say that what I really liked about Talos in Captain Marvel was his humor. He was very fucking funny in that movie. And we haven't seen any of that yet because we're dealing with a lot of drama, a lot of serious shit here. So hopefully
we got a little bit of it, but yeah, not a lot.
I think that's what really made them two's dynamic relationship in Captain Marvel, was because of the humor that they had with each other. So I hope we somehow get back to that, even though I know this is more serious.
Right.
I mean, Captain Marvel was serious too, but I
get it. But I do think that it's something that Marvel does well, like balancing, again, because there was some humor in this, as serious as it was.
Right. This seemed a lot darker than any of the other stuff so far.
Because they killed off Maria Hill in the first fucking episode.
Well, I mean,
Fury is walking around like he got bad knees.
It's got a lot of that. The Winter Soldier show when they
the espionage, type
of stuff, but without superheroes.
And I'm telling you, when I was watching it, I was like, and it actually took me a minute because I had to like pause it to go take out the trash, and that with the wheelchair, and that was like a whole experience, and that takes time. But I came back and I started again, and I was like, Fury is legit too old for this shit. Like, and a lot of it, he reminded me. Yeah, he reminded me of my dad. Like, I didn't realize how old Samuel Jackson is until recently. I don't know if it was like his birthday or something, but within the past few months, his age came up in something, and I was just reminded just how old he actually is. And there was just something about him in this, especially in the first few scenes that he was in, that he just really reminded me of my dad. And I was like, he need to call an Avenger or two. But I get why. I think that in the past when we've watched these like TV shows and stuff, particularly like the Netflix shows or whatever, you get why. The obvious reasons that they don't include these characters, but I think the universe has done a pretty decent job of not having it be a crutch that just call Thor or just call,
I mean, we did get
Captain Marvel.
briefly.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, but Captain Marvel's out there. But we did get briefly see what's his name, the Iron Man's friend, Brody. We did see him, so obviously he's in the show.
Is
But
is he technically an Avenger though? Because I feel like
I
that
thought
should
he's
end it.
Wow.
he's the
No,
new.
no, no,
He's
no,
part
no.
of the new Avengers, isn't he?
Disrespect James Rhodes.
Listen.
The
I
man's a
say,
fucking colonel,
War
or
Machine.
whatever the thing is.
listen.
Yeah, War Machine.
My
God
point
damn it.
is, I know his moniker. My point is that are there even Avengers anymore? Because he was one at the end of. Oh,
Yeah,
fuck.
when half of them went away.
What was it?
He was definitely one.
It was one of Spider-Man. It was Spider-Man or Ant-Man or.
No. It was the one that ended with Cap saying Avengers, and then it cut before he said a symbol. Rhodey was one of them, right? It was him and Wanda and Vision and Homegirl, Black Widow. Maybe I'm forgetting somebody else. Whatever movie that was, there was like, oh, these are our new Avengers. But since then, we've had Infinity War and the blip and all of that and the Endgame, and Cap is now dead. So I just don't feel like we know who the Avengers are in this timeline in the universe, right? Because I don't think there are any. Am I wrong?
I guess technically there would not be Avengers.
Right? Because
Yeah.
it just feels like that is all, and it feels like that is something like the phase that we're in and the gathering of Kang and these new threats or whatever, in the introduction of people like Namor or whatever that we're going to eventually get to. It feels like that is something that they're, we have a new Cap and all that, but I don't think we technically have Avengers. So that's just all I meant. Like, I don't even think there are Avengers to call, technically. What did you
But
think?
real
Oh,
quickly,
sorry.
that the one person I do other than we saw Rhodes is is it Monica
Rambo, yeah.
Rambeau? Like she should be in this because she had a connection to the Skrulls in Captain Marvel, but also what she's doing now in her division has to do with like
The
alien
infiltration of, yeah.
So
Of alien stuff.
I think she should be in this definitely, but I don't know if she will be.
But
Well,
I
they've
feel
said
like they
that-
can. Go ahead.
They've said that this is going to lead into Armor Wars or whatever the fuck that the Rhodes show is,
Oh, okay.
or the movie, whatever they turn. If that's going to be a show or a movie, I don't remember.
Mhm.
They've changed it a bunch of times.
Mm-hmm.
But this is supposed to lead directly into Don Cheadle's movie or Don Cheadle's story,
Got it.
whether it's a movie or a show or whatever.
I did not recognize Dermot Mulroney as the president right away. I saw his name in the credits, and then he was talking to the president. And I was like, "What the fuck is the president?" And I really looked at his face. I was like, "Ooh, Lord, we all getting older."
Yeah.
What did you think, John?
Well,
I don't think you liked it. Go ahead.
I would say that I'm like we were going to talk about this last night, right?
Right.
And so I watched it yesterday, and I came out of it, and let me put it this way. I saw an article, right? That I didn't read the article, but I saw the headline, and it said that it posed the question: is Secret Invasion Marvel's Andor? And what I can say after this episode is no, it's not. No, it very much
But is it
not.
trying to be though?
In
That just
terms
feels
of
like
is it
people
trying to
like-
be good? Then it's failing.
Why is it bad?
The thing that I didn't like is that, well, I mean, and that's the thing is, like I was saying, I came out of watching it yesterday, and I was like, okay, it wasn't great, but I still liked it. It was okay
Mm-hmm.
because, but like, because we didn't record last night, I thought about it more.
Mm-hmm.
And really, the thing that made it okay and enjoyable, and a show that I still want to watch, and I'm very much looking forward to finishing, right, is the goodwill that I have toward both like the actors, Samuel L. Jackson, and also like the character Nick Fury, and like Emilia Clarke. I really like her. Olivia Colman, Ben
Olivia Colman,
Mendelsohn.
I just every time she shows up, I'm just like, yes.
Right?
Yes,
like,
Queen, yes.
Right, and it was great, and like she seemed to be the only one acting in the show. But
You're such an asshole. Go ahead.
I mean, anyway. So, but when I stripped away that goodwill, right? I thought, well, like the MCU has been around for fucking 15 years, and we've been watching Samuel L. Jackson be Nick Fury for 15 years or 16 years. And so I was like, yeah, like all of that goodwill is there and carrying the show. But if you take it away and you say, did I like this by itself? Did I think it was good? And what I came away with is that it feels like a show that was due on Monday and they made it on Sunday night. Like it does feel kind of rushed and very much like that's one thing I notice about Samuel Jackson's Nick Fury character, and I know that they're intending to make him feel different because like he changed after the blip, but like he doesn't feel like Nick Fury. And I'm like, oh, is that because Samuel L. Jackson somehow like suddenly forgot how to act? I don't think so. I think it feels more like maybe they had him for like an hour and they're like, let's do all your scenes right now. Because like it just feels like they rushed. It feels rushed. It feels very sloppy. Like it feels like I mean they talk about AI. It feels like it was written by AI. Like there are multiple scenes where I'm just like, how did what happened here? Like why did this happen the way that it happened? Like one I think of is, and I mean obviously we'll get into it in detail, but when they're talking where Talos and Nick Fury are with the painter guy, right? And they're dealing with him, and Maria is like, oh, I'm going to follow this person that I saw.
Yeah, that was so like, yeah.
Stupid.
It's like a possible person of interest. And I'm like, why?
Yeah, it's like it was so sloppy, but it was also just so like elementary writing. Like it was just like, this is like, oh, I'm going to just have you follow her into a fucking subway. Into like this like dark tunnel where no one else is, into a sewer. It's like, why? But that beyond that part of it, like after they get done with the painter guy, and then we go to Maria, and she's still following Gaia, and she's fucking in the sewer, and she gets jumped by Gaia and knocked, and Gaia runs off. Then fucking Talos is there, and I'm like, where the fuck did Talos come from? How did he find Maria? Yeah. Like that, there was no explanation of what the fuck happened. It just felt like he showed up, and so much in a show where the point of it is that there are shapeshifters who can look like other people. I was like, is that Talos? Right. Like, and because like, and of course it was. Like it wasn't a situation where it wasn't him, but like
there was no explanation as to how he found her. Yeah.
Yeah,
and that's the thing where it's like, you don't know if there was something filmed and it was cut, one of those types of things, or, where she says into her earpiece, I'm entering the so-and-so street tunnels, following, whatever. But it was just possible person of interest, I'm going to follow. And he's like, okay, keep us updated. And you never saw an update.
Yeah. Much like it just honestly, like it's like, was Emilia Clarke even in the show? And then they were like, you know what, we should add his daughter, because like it's so many of the scenes with her and Talos are the scenes that I ran into, because like the scene where they talk about the bombs and she tells him about, this is what the plan is and all this, that scene happens, and then they cut directly to Talos just standing at a window, staring out in the the apartment or whatever that he and Fury and Maria are in. And then I'm like, well, is this like, was that Talos that was talking to Gaia, or was that like,
I don't think it was Gaia that was talking to him. I think that's, you don't think,
Maybe.
I don't think it was her because she specifically says this is where we're gonna be. Like it
Mhm.
went from to me what I was tipped off of, and it could be like just sloppy writing, but or rushed writing, but it went from her being um like I'm not coming home, I'm not with you, I don't agree with what you're doing, finding out her mother was dead. There was no real anything in between that and her meeting him that
Mhm.
informed why she would be doing this. So I didn't trust this scene at all, especially because it didn't seem like she needed a lot of convincing. And then for her to offer up all this information and be like, this is what I'm going to do. This is where we're going to be. And he knows you're coming. So I'm going to mark
Right.
these things with this thing. And it's like, how does he know that you're coming? It just felt
Right.
sloppy to me. So I just assumed it wasn't her. And then when you see that Gravik was the one, he
Mhm.
was actually there himself, when they had said prior that he wasn't typically, like he would send out the warriors to do this type of stuff and that the bags were empty. I was like, oh, it was a setup. My assumption was that
Right.
that wasn't her.
Right. Like
Yeah.
after the episode, that's what you come back to, and you say, okay, well, I guess it wasn't her in
And
that
maybe they'll
scene.
confirm that, next week, but that's my
Maybe.
assumption leaving the
But
episode. Yeah.
right, but like while watching that scene, like I just felt like the editing was really sloppy in like
Hmm.
just cutting from Talos in a scene to Talos over here in this scene, like in without anything in between it. It just felt bad. Like
Hmm.
I don't know what better
No,
way to
okay.
put it.
That's fair.
And like there's just multiple scenes like that. Like the chess scene where like Fury just goes into a bar and starts arguing with this guy at the bar, and then he's like, okay, I'm gonna walk over here, and here's Maria or Hill sitting here with a chessboard, and I was just like, what? Where did we set up this? And then she's like, we've established that you don't lie to me when we're playing chess. And I'm like, when the fuck did we establish that? Like, I don't. I'm just like, it just
Well, I feel
feels
like some of that
sloppy.
stuff is just we haven't seen a lot of them. And so
Okay,
this is
but
just
like, it's
trying
a
to
six
like
episode show.
establish. No, 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 I get that. And it's a maybe a fast way to do that. But for me, like that type of stuff, like that, like line delivery doesn't bother me. I mean, I feel like they did the same thing like in the beginning where it felt like to me the first few scenes were written to be like, well, we're gonna assume you've seen Captain Marvel, but just in case you haven't, here's the
Mhm.
deal with the Skrulls, and here's why there is some animosity, and here's what was promised to them that you has not been delivered because Fury's off in space, and we know Captain Marvel's dealing with some other shit. So I appreciated that kind of like exposition, like this is just the way of the world right now, and I feel like oh my God, what was his name? The guy who gets killed in the beginning with the fake arm.
Prescott.
Yeah.
Prescott, fucking Barrett Dondarrion.
Yes. Like that whole scene,
I
like
love
that
that.
that felt like, this was just like to fill us all in,
Yeah,
and
it
because
basically it was the plot of the
and I
whole show.
appreciate, yeah, and I appreciated it again because I had not, and it didn't occur to me until this scene was happening and they were mentioning Gravik and all this shit that I was like, I probably should have watched Captain Marvel before I went into this because I was trying to remember exactly like when did Fury take his ass up into space again? I remember like the reveal that he was in space, but I was trying to remember when that
It was
happened.
in Spider-Man No Way Home, remember? Because he was in that, but what the reveal at the end of that movie was that it was Skrulls imitating.
Okay. See, I couldn't remember like
Him and
where that
Maria,
had
yeah.
been
Yeah.
established, and then I could not remember. I knew that there was a thing in Captain Marvel where we had spent some time thinking that some of the Skrulls, or at least one of the Skrulls, was bad and he wasn't. Um and what they really wanted and all of that. So I was like, I really wish I had taken the time to do that, but I hadn't.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I thought Richard Dormer was the MVP. I loved the opening scene where he's doing his whole like conspiracy shit.
mhm.
That felt like fucking like I don't know, like Manchurian Candidate, like it felt like 7 Days in May, like it felt like
Although
He was
okay.
right about everything too.
But the thing, okay, so but the thing that bothered me with that is for me, I would just say I enjoyed it. I did have issues with it, but I typically don't like this type of if I'm going to be watching like espionage stuff like this, I need it to be super, super smart.
Mhm.
But
This is not.
right. And so like for me, it's like you have this person who's so fucking suspicious, right? Who sees the plans before other people, who sees the trouble, he's like telling you the sky is falling, and it is. And for him to, like, we still don't really even know what tipped him off that Ross wasn't Ross. But at that point, it's like you're so fucking suspicious. And then you say, well, I only trust you and I only trust Fury. You gave him so much before you got suspicious. And I still don't know what it is that tipped him off. So it's like, why wouldn't you have tested him first? Especially because this isn't just any spy drama. It's one in which these Skrulls can look like anyone.
Mhm.
And you know that, and you have been saying that, and to find out later that not later, in this scene where Ross is like, oh, there's just like maybe a dozen or so. And it's like, no, actually there's several hundred. It's like,
Yeah, there's
and
500 in New Skrillex.
alone, exactly. And so you know that he is the one who sees it all. I thought that was so sloppy, but it felt like they were doing that. And I knew from the beginning that this wasn't Ross. Again,
Yeah.
maybe just because of knowing going into it the type of show it is. Again, if you haven't seen Captain Marvel, you're not really sure, you don't read the comics, you don't know what Skrulls are and what they can do. If you weren't sure, even okay, you haven't seen the trailer, like I can maybe see you being like, what the fuck? But for the most part, I think it was a fairly safe assumption to everyone watching that this wasn't going to be Ross. And it felt like the Marvel thing where they do something big in the opening, which is make you think they killed Ross. And then it's like, oh no. And it sets the stakes, right? We're like, holy shit, it really could be anyone. You don't know who to trust. Which again, for me, in these types of stories, like with Mission Impossible, where you had the whole where you could put the mask on and look like everyone. To me, if you're gonna go back to that well, like to me, you can't go to that well but so many times, and you have to be really strategic in when you do it. And so far in this show, I should say, I'm curious to see with the remaining episodes how they handle that, because it can be something, again, if you go to that well too many times, it's just cheap. Um, and so I'm
And you
very
don't buy
curious
any
to
scene.
see if it was in fact Gaia who gave her father that information. I was under the assumption that it wasn't by the time the episode ended, but I'm curious to see if they confirm that going forward. Um, but yeah, I liked it. I definitely had issues with it. It's the type of show that honestly, I mean, I feel like they're almost an hour, right? If they
Mhm.
were less, we would probably do this two at a time, because I don't know. I really want to see what they do with the second episode to get an idea of the pacing and the movement of it all. But it set up, I guess, what it needed to set up. I like John said, a lot of the actors. I don't know if I agree with the whole like certain things feeling rushed, but I do feel like I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt that there were things that were shot that they decided to remove, because I feel like we've seen this before where it's like, well, this could have been cleared up if you just included just like a quick shot of her saying I'm entering this time, whatever. And you find out maybe they did do that, but they had to cut for time, and they're wanting you to just go with it. I think that was a poor place to cut. But again, I don't know what was filmed and what the overall intention was. So I did feel like the disjointment in certain areas, but overall, I liked it. Um, yeah, overall, I liked it. Um, all right, so the whole premise is Fury coming back to Earth because there's this big Skrull kind of uprising. They're
I
split.
I loved his entrance because it was the way they filmed it was like you see any kind of just when you watch those like
Like an alien. Yeah.
alien movie or
Yeah.
whatever, yeah, it was kind of like blurred and it looked like an alien come off a spaceship.
Yeah. But the setup is that there are these Skrulls like Talos, who is not interested in destroying mankind to give the Skrulls a home on Earth. And then you have some who feel like, led by Gravik, who are wanting to take over Earth for their own purposes, for their people. And to do that, they are engaging in acts of terrorism, making it seem like, these countries are attacking each other in these small, again, acts of terrorism, trying to set off something bigger. And in this first episode, at least, we're in Russia primarily, actually, I think through the whole thing, where there is a group, AAR, Americans Against Russia. I was like, that's so, like, y'all couldn't come up with something better than that. It's like, we hate Russians. Like, well, I would just name it that, But they're being used. We see that their leader is taken over by a Skrull. A Skrull takes on his appearance and mind in the beginning of the episode, and they're getting these dirty bombs made to launch this attack against Russia. So I want to ask Gravik, am I supposed to know him?
No, that's why I watched Captain Marvel to see,
right.
But he's not mentioned in there.
Okay.
The only people that are mentioned are Talos, his wife, and his daughter. Like, this is the only people you see, but you don't see anything.
And since Captain Marvel was like in the 80s, right?
Right.
Was his daughter...
No, it's 90. It was like 95.
90s, that's right, 90s. Was his daughter
she was about the same. She was the same age.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, she was a child the same age as, about around the same age as
Monica.
Rambo, yeah.
Right. Okay. So Ross, let's talk about the scene with Ross and Prescott attempting to kill him after already giving him the information, his proof or whatever, to get Fury's ass back down there, to be like, look, shit's about to jump off. He realizes somehow that Ross isn't Ross and attacks him. And they do this whole thing where we are supposed to like think that it's Ross, and then Ross shoots and kills him. And when he didn't like respond in a way that you would think an agent would respond after having to kill another agent in self-defense, it was like, okay, this is definitely not Ross. And then he's chased by this Russian man who ends up being Talos. But when you saw the way Ross was running, it was like, this ain't Ross. Ross got bad knees too. He should. But yeah, when he fell, how about when he missed that jump?
Yeah, it was like, because that was the... If you hadn't figured out yet, then he was not Ross, right? Like, it's so weird because, like, it felt like it was obviously not Ross,
right?
But at the same time, it felt like they were trying to trick you into thinking it was still Ross,
right? Because when it happened, when he hit the side of that building, it fell. I was like, "Ooh!" Like, I mean, yeah, it's still tough to watch, yeah.
Because they wanted you to think that Ross just died,
and
it's like, I don't know, like, and at least they didn't milk it for too long.
Right,
he pretty immediately stood up.
Yeah, he started crawling or whatever, and you're like, there's no way Ross would have survived that. And then Talos appears, or the Russian guy appears, and we see who it is, and it's Maria.
Okay, so my question here is, okay, so we got Maria in Russia. Ross calls her for to basically be picked up or whatever.
That's right.
So were they in Russia together, or was she just randomly in Russia? Like, is she just like, that was like, it just felt weird that both of these two are in Russia.
I think they were working together.
Okay, so why didn't they not show us the real Ross?
Well, okay, so my question to you guys was, because later, like I said, this is going to be kind of an all-over discussion, because later when we see at New Skrullos the chambers that they have them. Yes. I forget what she calls them that later when she tells the father, right? And that's another reason I didn't think it was her, because she enters that scene where the guy Beto is like, what's back there? She goes, victory. And we see these people hooked up to these machines, and there's some shit going on with their heads, and they're unconscious. And then we see it happen, right? We see this guy take that AAR guy's face, his form, and then take his mind. And then he's just like in those machines. I was like, is that do they have Ross in that?
Yeah, that was the question I had. But
Right.
Right.
I felt like because the question I had was, oh, do they need the person like this?
Right.
Do they have to have them in order to become them? And
No,
then
they don't.
what
Because
because then when later you see that when fucking Gravik is Nick Fury,
Hmm.
they don't have Nick Fury. So like
Exactly.
obviously they
so
can
yeah,
become people without
so
having.
that's why like got all of that from watching Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel, the way it's explained is they just have to look at the person and they can get them,
Right.
but
Mhm.
they cannot get their memories unless they use that machine. So they have Captain Marvel in, they have her hooked up to it. That's how he gets into her memories to figure out like the whole
Hmm.
plot, like figure out the
Right.
scientists that they were looking for, stuff like that. So those get the deep memories out of the people. All they can get, like just by I guess grabbing their image or whatever, is just their most recent memories. So that when they do all those like body swaps, like they're hooking all those people up because they want like their whole fucking life.
Now, what I wonder though then is if, again, like I don't know what tipped off Prescott that wasn't him. But
Right.
it would have been interesting if it had been something, because it felt very like simple. It's like, okay, I'll get this to Fury. And he was like, thanks, I know you will, or something. And then he attacked him. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, it wasn't enough of a exchange for me to feel like to
Right.
gauge like what was said that tipped him off. Um,
And
but
that's why I loved it in Captain, because after they kept bringing back Captain Marvel again, was that's how Fury figured out Talos was fake, not his real boss, because he had just told Captain Marvel, she's like, what's your name? He goes, Nick Fury, but nobody calls me Nick, nobody calls me Nicholas, they only call me Fury. But then he
mhm.
jumps in the elevator with the
uh,
Talos boss, and he calls him Nicholas. He knew right away that it was.
Mhm. I mean,
my government name.
and
Okay,
then that's
but
the thing is Captain Marvel is a great movie.
Yes, it
Like
is. It
I
was so
fucking
fucking good.
loved that movie, and I
yeah.
Yeah,
still
Yeah,
yeah.
it is. I'm gonna watch. I'm definitely gonna try to watch it again before the next episode. But okay, so my question then was, when that happened, I was just I kind of felt like I remembered that I didn't even know about those machines. Like I didn't remember those things existed until they showed them later. So it wasn't until they showed it later that I was like, oh shit, do they have Ross hooked up to that? Because I thought it was as
Mhm.
simple as they can look at somebody and take on their form. So it's both. They can do that, but to get like the full memories, they need them hooked up to that. So the assumption then is that they don't have Ross, that it was just posing, and that Maria didn't know that.
Right. And then that
Right.
means Ross is still out there somewhere.
Is he running around Russia? Like
Yeah, that's my assumption, because this guy,
or did she come to Russia with the Skrull the whole time
but
thinking it was
they have to physically see Ross. So like, so this person either went to the US and saw Ross or went to Wakanda. I don't know, but this
No,
person
he
had,
ain't getting to Wakanda, I can tell you that.
but he had to see Ross to,
Right. So, um, and then the thing that tipped back to that, because I might forget it later, the thing that made me think that it wasn't her when she was talking to her dad, beyond the fact that I'm just going to be suspicious of anybody at this point, but
Mhm.
there wasn't, in addition to there not just feeling like enough fuel for me for her to switch sides like that, was when they brought up whatever those tanks or machines are called. I think he brought it up first, and she said, we don't know, no one's allowed to see, or something like that. And I was like, that's not true, because we saw her walk through there and you could see who the people were who were hooked up to those things. And so it just felt like she was not giving him good information or the right information. But then she turns around and then says, well, this is where we're going to be, and this is what I'm going to do. And then he knows you're coming. And it was just like, okay, this cannot be her. I don't know that she would be okay with them like actively about to kill her dad or whatever. Um, so when Fury comes back, I also want to be clear. When he decides to go for a walk, and I like that Talos is like, "You're gonna stand out." It's like 10 p.m. in Moscow,
and you're
without
black.
saying it. Right, without saying it. But then later, Olivia Colman's character is like, "Okay, big black man walking around Moscow."
Mhm.
It's either Nick Fury or Paul Robeson or whatever it was. I was just like, okay, she said it. Um, he clearly did that on purpose, like he told her, to get an audience with her to get kidnapped or whatever, to go in there, and he plants that little bug in her office. We've not met this character before, right? Like, they give us a lot of like backstory in their banter going back and forth that clearly, like, he ruined her flat, or he's sort of like burning her city to the ground or whatever. But we've not met her before, right?
I don't
Yeah.
remember her.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we haven't. Yeah.
And then we see her through the little spy camera that he set up, basically saying a lot of what Prescott was saying, right? Which is that we have a situation, and the fact that Nick Fury is here should tell you that we have a situation, that the fact that he brought his ass back down to Earth should tell you that we have a situation. And then we learn that there is between a conversation with Talos and Maria and Nick Fury, we learned that the Skrulls who are living in hiding are doing so in Russia because of Russia having the most abandoned nuclear plants on Earth, and that they're not mapped. Like, a lot of them aren't mapped. So they don't even know exactly where the Skrulls are hiding because they are immune to radiation. So it makes the kind of perfect hiding place, right? That humans ain't going to go digging around these places. And they're basically living there. It's kind of reminded me of like any of the shows that we've watched where you have like these societies in hiding, like in Sweet Tooth, remember, where like you find out there's like a whole area of like little, animal children and animal human children. And then also oh God, what was the other thing we watched? I just had and I lost it. I think it might have been Bird Box. Like, wasn't that at the end? Like, you find out that there were people who are living like, or even Station 11. But yeah, they're just living in these abandoned nuclear plants, and they're giving refuge to other Skrull who are like living in hiding. And it's, if you don't want to be a warrior and go out there, working for the cause and committing acts of terrorism, you can't leave the compound. You just have to live there. And they're growing their
So what I'm
produce and all that stuff.
So what I'm curious on is when Skrulls. So the way it's explained in Captain Marvel is the Skrulls found Earth in that movie, so in the 90s or whatever. But they get them. They're looking for a new home. So he gets them. He, like, the whole end of the movie, he gets them onto the spaceship and stuff like that, and then they whoosh off or whatever. They leave space. Captain Marvel takes them out to deep space, whatever. Now they're saying that there's refugees on Earth, and I'm just like, I don't. That's where I'm kind of confused as where these people came from. So obviously we got these people living in this nuclear power plant. These people.
They're not people. No, I'm kidding. Go ahead.
What I mean. I'm these Skrulls. But you got this random guy that comes off the street. He goes, "Oh, I'm looking for my people." Like, where the fuck did you come from? Like, you didn't come to Earth with these people. How did you get there? Like, at what point did Skrulls just come to Earth randomly? That's what I'm interested in knowing, is when was the first invasion or whatever of these Skrulls coming to Earth and just living with us before this group decided, hey, we're going to break off because we want to take over Earth rather than just live with these people.
And what they say in this episode, right, is that these Skrulls they blame Nick Fury for not finding them a planet.
Right.
Because Nick Fury promised to give them a planet or find them a new home, and that he hasn't done that or whatever, and so now, they're pissed off at him.
Right. And they're just displaced, and
And then Talos says he was exiled, but it sounds like he has been living on Earth because I think that's his wife. I believe she died on Earth, but when he talks about the plant, he goes, it started growing here. It got used to the atmosphere here, whatever. So he's been living on Earth for a while. So I'm guessing at some point in the past, maybe after the blip or whatever, but the Skrulls have just been living on Earth with us.
Yeah. And so when we see him brought into the facility, we learn that they're growing their own produce, and that they can, like, we see the children and some adults like playing and stuff, like in their true forms. And then we get our first, a bit later, we get our first look at Gravik as he is, as they send Gaia, Amelia Clark's character, on this mission to meet with the guy who is going to either supply them with or help them get what they need to make these dirty bombs. But this is just as Fury and Talos find him as well. What to John's point earlier, and I think, like I said, I watched half of a reaction to it. I had this reaction to this scene, like, what the fuck made Maria Hill decide that this was a possible person of interest? It would have been so easy. Again, don't know what was filmed and why it was edited the way it was, and what may not been cut. But it would have been so easy to just have it be like, it looked like she went out the back as they went in the front. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you know for a fact that this guy is in like one space, like this is his building or this is his apartment or this is his store, let's say. And as you see Fury and Talos go in the front, you see her creeping out the back door. Then it may be like, if we think that this guy is who he is or dealing in what he deals in, and she's leaving with a backpack, like maybe it makes sense for her to say, hey, I just saw someone scoot out the back when you guys came in the front. Let me go follow, but it wasn't that. It was literally just like a busy fucking street. And she was like at the end of like the alley, like walking by. She could have came from anywhere and decided to go follow her.
And then when she says to Fury, she's like, oh, I've got this person of interest, I'm going to follow them. He's like, keep me posted. And then we never hear from her again.
Yeah, she never keeps them posted. If she did, again, they cut it because next thing you know, Talos is showing up. But I think it was pretty obvious, like, because they mentioned the daughter, like when earlier it felt like it was mentioned in a way where Nick thought maybe she got snapped. And then it was just like, oh no, she has her own ideas and she's angry. And it was like, oh, okay, she's just, she done ran away from home, basically. She done joined the cult or something. When you see her being the one who picks up Beto at the gate, it was fairly obvious, I think, right, that this would be Gaia. And it's confirmed when Talos confronts her in the tunnels. But before that, I don't know if there's much to say about this fight. Like, I feel like, I think, John, you kind of mentioned it. See, to me, he felt different, but it felt like on purpose, right? Because you see him having the flashback of being snapped away, right? And I don't feel like we have dealt with, other than Monica, right? Seeing like the aftermath of like the effects of like that happening. The other characters that has happened to, I feel like they spent any real time delving into. You have like Ant-Man in his movie. But it's just basically like, oh, I missed a lot of time with my daughter. There hasn't really, to my recollection, been a dive into like psychologically what it must be like for these people. We saw it with, I don't know if you ever saw Black Widow, the movie, John.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But with oh God, I'm drawing a blank on her name. But Black Widow's sister, right?
Mm-hmm.
Again, with Monica, we saw that when she left, she was sitting, her mother's hospital bed, and then to come back and she's already died. So we've seen these people kind of deal with the whole, while I was gone, I lost someone and this happened. And I think a small scale, but I feel like they have an opportunity here with this series, with the next 5 episodes, especially because they are saying you've changed, right? And then you said it didn't feel like Nick Fury. That's where I felt like it was on purpose, right? I'm hoping they give voice to why, what it is that he feels like. So it feels like to me that this is just the beginning of it. Like, you're supposed to feel like, yeah, he's different, he's changed. I do feel like he was putting on a bit of an act, because when he was walking around waiting to get kidnapped, like I said, he reminded me of my dad, like towards the end when he was really sick, like it was like, wow, Fury is really kind of old. Like, what is happening? But then like later in the show, he's definitely not, especially when you get the flashback of him being blipped. Like, I forgot, or snapped, I forgot how young he looked, how just long he has been this character, because it is a marked difference. And I'm sure they're making him look older or maybe closer to his age than he actually does. But it feels like, this is a different person. This is not the eye patch, long leather coat. And I don't know if we're going to get that by the end. I don't know if what the point of his journey yet is, but it does feel like he's different. This has changed him. And I hope they allow the character to
Yeah.
give voice to what that change is, what it was
Absolutely.
like for him,
Like that's the part where like that's what I mean. Like I do feel like it's meant to be intentional, right? Like I do feel like you said, because you have Maria saying it, you have Olivia Colman's character saying it, like you have people saying it directly to him that he's different, that he's not the same, like he's weaker, like all of these things, and I feel like at least in this episode, and maybe it was just the other issues that I had with the episode that clouded this, but it just feels like the writing hasn't been there to so far. Obviously, it's one episode, but it's only one. It's one episode in a 6-episode series. You know what I mean? So it's not nothing. So it just feels like the writing wasn't strong enough for me to have it be intentional, to have it be clearly intentional. You know what I mean?
Oh, see,
Like
I disagree.
to
I
give
did.
to
I
give the
was,
voice to the character the way that you're talking about, like to have him address the issue that he's
yeah, I'm
in.
waiting for them to tell. To me, they showed it to me. To me, that was enough of having the way other characters reacted to him to have it so that she honestly believed that he was so easily taken because he is so like out of the
And
game.
that was
And then for him to be like, no, this was part of it. So you realize that he's still not one to be fucked with. And he still, got his spy moves in him, but internally there is something going on with him that people who, again, they haven't given us a lot of him and Hill together, but but of what I have, I'm willing to me, it didn't bother me for her to say, well, we've established that you can't lie to me. Because I'm like, okay, they're telling me this, but they haven't had a lot of opportunity to show that. But what we have seen of them together, they're kind of shorthand together in things like those Avengers movies and such, is enough for me to be like, to accept that, to just accept them telling me that. I feel like they've shown us it with him, his remembering being snapped, right? That, and again, I think for me, it was just like the difference in what the characters look like that kind of drove it home as well, to feel like, okay, yeah, this is a completely different man. And a lot of things have happened. They've lost a lot of people, right? Since then, that we haven't really gotten to see him kind of react to the loss of Cap and Black Widow or whatever, that I am confident, or hoping I should say, that now letting the character explain to you like what he's going through and why, that can happen. And so yeah, this being like the first of 6, I feel like 5 hours is a lot of time for them to kind of explore that. So
yeah, and I felt
um,
like when having Olivia Colman say that, to me, just made her stupid. It made her seem so dumb because they were so obvious with like, yeah, he's clearly intentionally getting himself caught. Like, why would she think that he's not doing that? Because it was
because
so,
I
and
think
I
she
know that
was,
she's
I
not
think
watching.
right. I think,
Yeah,
well, I think it's just what we're supposed to believe is she was believing the show he was putting on, like walking through the streets and stuff.
yeah, and that makes her
Yeah.
stupid.
Yeah. 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 I
That makes
mean,
me not think that she's a smart character.
or that she just doesn't know him as well as somebody like Maria Hill, which is fine because we don't know her. You know what I mean? So that doesn't really like bother me. But we'll see going forward, like what her capabilities are. He said that she is someone who will definitely go scorched earth. Like, I'm curious to see that in action, like to see what that's, like what her story is. But like on the surface, like that was like enough for me. But okay, so he yeah, he confronts his daughter, who finds out, I think in a very fucked up way, that her mother's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus Christ.
Very.
And
I won't even say it again. Go ahead.
huh?
Go ahead. Go ahead. No, no. Go
Oh,
ahead.
and then and we see her kind of like grappling with that later, and you would think kind of questioning what she's doing. But again, I think that they either purposely didn't show us uh a lot of that, because then she goes directly to, okay, I'm going to give you some really important information that's going to fuck over my colleagues or whatever. And then you find out, oh, well, no, she was full of shit because those bags were empty. And interestingly enough, I don't feel like we saw her again, right? Because there were 3 people with marked bags. She was one of them. They never showed her bag being taken from her, right? Like we saw Maria and Talos.
Well, she had 2 bags and she was dropping them both off to 2 different
To
people.
different people, right?
And that was what they were saying. Is like, we missed the drop off or whatever.
Right.
And
Yes.
Right. So we don't see her reaction to like this stuff happening, right?
Right.
Which is, again, one of the reasons why I feel like it could maybe not be her. One thing that I thought was somewhat interesting and maybe implicates Olivia Colman's character. I'm forgetting her name. I forget it.
Olivia Colman, Sonia Fallsworth.
I'm not saying Fallsworth. Sonia. Sorry, I yawned. Is when they're on this like sting operation to watch the drop off of these bombs or bomb materials, whatever. Is the little girl that he saw in the street before he got abducted appears there and he follows her. And it is the same little girl, right? With that ball. Because it's the same. Oh,
really?
I think it is. I think that's
I don't remember him seeing a girl before he got abducted.
Yeah, he was walking across the street and he was in the street and this girl like chased the ball into the street behind him. And then she picks up the ball and it's like a big, like multicolored, like beach ball. And she holds it. She's just staring at him like she ain't never seen a nigga before. And then the mother comes and says some shit in Russian that they don't even bother to translate for us. So I'm thinking it was like, get away from that black man. I don't know. And he just like, he stares down this little girl the entire time she's like ushered off by her mother. And then he stares like, he just stares at her like it was so fucking creepy.
It's like that video of the guy arguing with the baby. And he's like, "Hey, why is your boy looking at me like this?" And it's a baby.
But well, she could be the real girl, but Gravik was there.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Was Gravik there or was somebody like, because after he walks away, he walks like a few feet, he's snatched up and put into the van. So it's just, and those were her people that did that. So was Gravik there? Like, why?
He must have been. If that's the same girl, he had to have been there.
Or Sonia isn't Sonia. Because okay. Why would how would Gravik be there like that fast? Because they made it seem like.
So Sonia's been replaced is what you're saying.
Right. Because that was just so. It'd be so weird to me that like he literally just got off the spaceship and met with Talos and Maria and then took a walk. Why? What? How was Gravik monitoring the spaceship? Like, how would he be tailing Fury that fast? But I'm pretty sure it's the same little girl with the same ball. That's why he looked at her the way he did and followed her. You think he just randomly following little white girls? That's how you go to jail. And this was just a little frustrating again, but to me, this is like the type of stuff that just happens in these types of like spy movie things that this is typically not my genre of shit like I choose to watch. But like the whole running after, and then it's like, I've lost eyes on him, and he's not telling anybody he's chasing this little girl that he clearly suspects to be a Skrull, right? Because again, I'm pretty sure it's the same little girl from the beginning. It's definitely the same wall.
Especially when the girl turns into a man.
Yes, exactly. And then it's like, okay, there's some fuck shit going on. But yeah, this whole thing. And then to like the way Gravik, I will say like this actor playing Gravik, he's very, very cute. But like the way he just like stares at Fury the whole time, like, and doesn't say anything, it's very Body Snatchers weird and creepy. And like when he's just looking at him like, yeah, I did it. Now what? Like everything he did, he always like looked at Fury after he did it. Like, yep, I just blew up this shit. Yep, I just shot Maria. It's like, but yeah.
It's Kingsley Ben Adir.
The actor playing Gravik.
Yeah. He was, that's who he is. Yeah. He was Malcolm X in One Night in Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I didn't remember that. At all. But yeah, I remember.
He's
I recognize him now.
um he's the Donnie, he's also in the OA, remember? The black guy. Was he a reporter or a cop or something?
I
Kareem.
And that
don't
like
remember him.
the oh my God. I want to say I'm trying to remember how many seasons it was, but like that last one. And we really liked him in that. I remember like wasn't Zendaya in that too? Zendaya, whatever her name is.
Was she really?
Zendaya in
Yeah,
the
she
OA.
was because wasn't there something where hold on, let me look this up.
Yeah,
What
she was in
was
it.
yeah, thank you. Because there was remember the whole thing where it was like this girl who went missing, and then you find out they were playing this game, and
Yeah.
Zendaya was like the only one who had reached a certain level in the game, and he was
Yes.
tracking that. He was hired. Remember, he lived on a boat, and the girl's mother, I forget if they were Chinese or Korean. I remember they were it was an Asian family, and they were speaking a different language, and the mother came to him to help look for the daughter. And it tracked down to that she was playing this kind of game that you go into for a while or whatever. And she like found something out and they tracked to like this apartment. He was the guy. He was the guy that was hired. So he ends up teaming up with the main girl, right? Um, whose name I'm forgetting from that. But yeah. But yes, and also Matt. Those are the two things I know him from: the OA and One Night in Miami. So
He's also playing Bob Marley.
I can see that. So he shoots and kills Maria, and I'm assuming it's her because they do the zoom out and there's no change. At the very least,
Yeah.
it's her.
It would have been really interesting if that were a Skrull.
Especially because we know that earlier she was working with Ross, who is also a Skrull.
Yeah, like and like if because we saw like Donnie said in that Spider-Man movie where both Hill and Fury were Skrulls the whole movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it would have been interesting if she had been a Skrull here and she didn't actually
Both
get
Fury
killed.
and who? Say it again. I
Hill,
missed
And
it.
Maria.
Maria,
Yeah.
Right,
Maria
right.
Hill.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um,
And that was what Far From Home. That was the one where they were both Skrulls at the end.
Yes.
okay.
The one with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Oh, right. Um, I
That
am
was a good
trying
movie too.
to, huh?
That was a good movie too.
Yeah. I am trying to, I'm sorry, I just kind of zoned out for a second because I looked at the time and I really need to order lunch. And I feel like ramen, but there's like only one place. And I don't think that I don't know, that's a lot. Hold on a second. At least they tell you how much sodium is in it. Oh, yeah, I can pay with my card. Okay, maybe I'll do this. I don't know. I'm hungry. Um, we have, wait, anything y'all want to touch on that maybe I didn't before I go to the feedback? I'm also scrolling to figure out what the fuck I'm going to eat while we're doing this.
No.
Okay.
I mean, like I said, I'm still very much looking forward to watching the rest of this, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
entirely open to being blown away by the rest of it.
Mm-hmm.
I just wasn't by this one.
Yeah,
I just
neither was I. I enjoyed it if Again, like I said, if the episodes were a bit shorter, I would consider doing two at a time, leading into the finale. But yeah, neither was I. Um, really, you fuckers ain't got nothing to say, so I can order me some food. Okay. I see how it is. Hold on a second.
I mean, I mean, I felt like all the father-daughter stuff with Talos and Gaia was weak. Like that was one of the problems that I had.
I don't know that I care enough.
I mean,
I
that's the
don't know.
problem.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I don't know. Right. I don't know if that's what you're saying, but I agree. Like, I don't, I was like, okay, I guess.
And it was one thing too, like it was interesting when the guy shows up at New Skrillex and he's like at the gate, right? And she comes out there and she's the one who decides to let him in. Like Gaia comes out
Right, because she asked him the code and he had the right answer.
right, and so I'm like when that began, I was like, oh, she's like got some power in this new community. But then like the next time that we see her, she's being bossed around by like some guy.
Right. She has the power to like bring people like to ask that question and know that they're giving the right answer. That's it.
And then like agree, yeah, we can let this guy in, and
Yeah.
like that seemed like a lot of power to me.
Yeah.
And but then like when she's just being told, "Hey, you come over here," it's like he doesn't even use her name.
Yeah.
He's just like, "You follow me, go meet this guy and pick up these bombs." And he's just like, "Okay, I guess she's not that powerful."
All right. I just hold on. Let me place order. 하셨습니까? 네, 네. 이번 결제. 네, 네. Okay. 지금 결제 중. Nice. It went through. Okay.
And
So
it
I
was
just ordered some
interesting.
lunch. Go ahead.
And it was interesting when in the fight with the painter guy, which I liked. I just there's so many pieces of this that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. So like I really enjoy the idea of like, oh, like these scrolls being planted, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like into society, and finding out where they're planted and why. And like so like I liked the scene with the painter, and I liked that Nick Fury was just like, I'm gonna sit in this chair. Like that was funny. Like this Louis the 14th chair or whatever.
And it was actually like Louis the 15th, but then he just kept calling it 14th. He's like, you got me more of these comfortable ass Louis the 14th chairs over there. And I'm like,
Yeah, like, that was good. I liked
yeah.
that.
Everybody gets
But
one lie, nobody gets two. I like that too.
yeah. And then when after they're fighting with Talos and the guy, and then he's like, "No, don't shoot him."
Yeah.
And then after he shoots him, he's like, "I said no." And then like I like it, but at the same time, it wasn't clear to me. Like that's the only thing that I ran into in that scene, was that like it wasn't clear to me why. Like
He didn't want
what
him
he
killing his people.
was like, yeah, did he want him not to kill? Because he says, "This is my fight." And so I was like,
Mm-hmm.
so like, was Talos gonna kill him? And he was like, I should
I
be
don't
the
think
one
he
to
was
kill
going to
him.
kill him.
So
I think he was
yeah,
trying to give
Talos
him
wants
the
to save it. He
Yeah.
wants to save his people and get rid of
Right. I think he thinks that
Rabbit.
he can still get to some of them, and like this isn't the way to get what it is that we want, you know? And that's why, you know, as he's fighting him, he's trying to get the information out of him. And him saying, you know, you betray your own people. And I mean, I got it too. I personally like the way this was done, because it wasn't one of those situations where Fury didn't have to shoot him then. It wasn't
Right.
like a scene where he was in imminent danger of dying, where it was like, well, dude, if he didn't do it, would, you know, you'd be dead right now. Like the guy was literally just advancing on you again, and you were across the room. He had just thrown you across the room. Fury did it because he wanted to. And I guess he was just sick of, like, he didn't think that Talos was going to win that fight, I guess. But I felt that pain of when he tries to help him up, and he's like, I said no, because it did feel like you didn't have to. It just felt like Fury went all American on him.
Yeah.
You
I mean,
didn't have to do it then, you know?
yeah, I mean, that's funny. Like, I really enjoyed that whole scene. I thought that was one of the highlights of the episode. And that was just like the one thing is like, it, you know, and it wasn't super unclear, right? Like, I thought it was one of two things, and I just wasn't entirely clear why. And so but I mean, yeah, I knew it was one of those two things.
Okay, so we do have some feedback. We have 2 bits of feedback. Of course, I closed it in the moment. I'm so hungry. I didn't realize how hungry I was until I ordered their food. Okay, so we have 2. First one's from Kimberly, who says, Hi, Nina, Donnie, and John. I knew Ross was a Skrull, as I suspect everyone watching did, but that was still a damn good opening scene. I like the slow build. The point of the show is rooted in mystery. It's a game of cat and mouse where we're left wondering who is the cat and who is the mouse. I also like the acknowledgement that following the blip, Fury, or is he, is not the same person. I feel like it has to be him. Otherwise, it's cheap to show him remembering things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Unless,
to me,
unless they have Fury in one of those machines.
But then that's still
but
cheap,
like,
because the only
like
reason you're showing, yeah.
you know, like it's not like it's like a good, like they're on the fucking, what they fucking call the Saber or whatever.
Saber, yeah.
Yeah.
Like if they have one of those machines on Saber and he's up there and this Skrull has his memories,
Right,
Like that
because
would explain it.
otherwise showing him get off the stuff, like it just feels really cheap if that's the case. But
Hmm.
but again, I think that's the whole point of shows like this, right? That has this type of storytelling mechanism built in, is that you're meant to question everything.
Yeah, and I feel
Anyway,
like they could write to that moment. Like that's the thing is any like anything like that can be written to and make it a thing where it's like, yeah, like that reveal matters to me. And they could do that. Like they
yeah.
absolutely like they could write to a moment where you go like Fury dies and then like he turns into a scroll on the ground and then you're like, what the fuck? And then they cut to him on Saber and he's still in a machine.
And then he
You know,
gets out of that machine and he's pissed.
yeah, and he's actually Fury.
I want him
Like
to
he's
drop like a bunch of fucking F bombs too. But yeah.
like
But
they
I
could
don't
write
know.
to that
Like
and it could work.
it could, but I don't know. I feel like there's been, I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to see a few more episodes to gauge how I might feel
Yeah.
about that being the thing. Because right now you have him witnessing Maria's death. Again, you have him being affected by the memory of being snapped away. You have him reacting to the news that Gaia is dead. Like there are like a lot of personal Fury moments in here that I feel like would be so cheap if it was never him. And kind of cheap in that, well, this guy knew all of this stuff. Like he knew how to engage with Sonya because this thing has him, they have him in that thing and it has his memories. It would just kind of cheapen watching this for however many episodes until we got that reveal, which again could be amazing and cool. They could write it to that, but I don't know how
What
I
if
would feel about the emotional manipulation of having us
right,
witness things that, like him putting his head to fucking Talos's forehead upon finding out about like this is like, okay, this is a friendship that's
what
been
if
going on for decades.
what if it's something where like again they would have to write it and again like after this first episode I genuinely like my confidence in their writing of this show is shaken, so I
Mhm.
don't know that I have confidence they could do it, but like what if, or at least they could do it in a convincing way. uh what if it was something where they tell you or show you that it's possible for a scroll to be someone for too long and they forget that they're a scroll. And so then it becomes a matter of he thinks he's Fury. Like this person, this scroll who is Fury right now thinks that they are Nick Fury because they've been Nick Fury for 5 years or something.
Okay, but
Like
like
for a long time.
that's cool and that's interesting and like boohoo for him, but I still don't know that I would appreciate these. It's like, okay, but my Fury missed out on like Maria Hill dying and learning that whatever Talos' wife did. Like, I don't know. That would
Yeah,
be a lot for
Sort
one
of.
showing him come
episode.
off of a spaceship and all that stuff. That's just
Yeah. And like
that.
bouncing with his feet on. I don't know. It's just like that would just kind of to me negate all of that stuff. And then
Yeah.
it's just like, why? I don't know if that reveal would be enough to like negate that stuff. Like the few things that I did like. Okay, but then she says, I also like the acknowledgement that following the blip, Fury, or is he, is not the same person. How could he be? Even were it not for the blip, age and aging is real, and Fury has the right to not want to spend the rest of his life, quote unquote, fighting the good fight. My two complaints: one, not enough people who are not able to pass as Russian in the episode. Not enough people who are not able to pass as Russian in the episode. I don't get that. There are not enough
That
people.
not
Does he
enough.
does she
There's not enough Russians in the episode.
no, I
Did she
think
say who are not able to pass as
yeah, I
Russian?
think it's a riddle that she's saying not enough non-white people. I think
Ah, gotcha.
that's
Okay,
what it
okay.
sounds like.
And two, they killed Maria Hill. Yeah, like again, this is not like a character I am particularly attached to or was attached to, but it does again just kind of feel like wow, like she was in the first Avengers, like we are just really killing motherfuckers. But it's natural, like because they do dangerous shit, and it's unrealistic that everybody would just keep surviving and surviving. It's not a
Yeah, I was
comic
thinking
book.
about that. Like, what was her first appearance? Was she in Thor?
um,
Because that was the first appearance of
No, I think
Hawkeye.
she was in. I think her first one was the Avengers.
Okay.
I think Whedon brought her in for that because they were friendly.
Hmm.
What's her name? Colby.
Kobe Smulders.
Right, I'm gonna look it up. I'm pretty sure it was. And it was like this whole thing because a lot of people were like, holy shit, that's the girl from How I Met Your Mother. Okay, how the fuck do you spell her name?
Maria.
C-O Maria.
Theo.
Cobi.
Kobe.
But
I was saying
yeah,
Kobe.
her first appearance was the Avengers, and
That's
she
what
was
I
in The
thought.
Winter Soldier. She was in Age of Ultron, Infinity War, and Endgame.
And she looks
And
super, super, super like she looked like, and I don't mean this in a negative way, like I'm sure it's gonna sound because, aging isn't bad. But like she was looking old in this. Like, and I wasn't sure, or like she was like Fury looking like time had passed. Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like in a way that they don't do with the other characters. Like they look older by like how can I put this? Like you can see a direct difference between the first time we saw Black Widow in that Iron Man movie, the second one, right?
mhm.
And Scarlett Johansson later, like in Civil War. It's like, oh, she looks so, but her look also changed. She had just like a young kind of baby fat face to her. But here it felt like they were really making a point to show that she and Fury are old. Like she just looked like a middle-aged woman. She looked her age, is what I'm saying. And it just made me realize how long, like it's just a
Damn,
complete difference than how she looked in the first Avengers movie.
she's not. She's only 41.
I mean, she's a white woman. They're
True.
41. It's like dog years. Stop it. You know this.
I will say, just looking at that, when she was impersonating the Spider-Man movie, it was Soren who was impersonating her, the Skrull, and Soren is Talos' wife. So,
Okay.
and obviously Soren is, I mean, presumed dead. I mean, to
Yeah,
us.
yeah.
So if someone had been impersonating Maria in this, it wouldn't have been Soren, I guess. So it would have
Right.
could have been confusing if
And
you
they
were
were doing
following the
that just
entire
to,
story.
they weren't doing that like, why were they impersonating him again? Just to keep it a secret that Fury was where he was, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah,
Like
I
they
believe
weren't
that.
being like, it wasn't like because she was close to Fury, Soren, like friendly and stuff.
Yeah. They had known each other. This is, Talos and Soren, like they knew him from the 90s.
From
So
the Captain
yeah.
Marvel. Right. Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, it was they were there. I don't remember the exact reason why, but yeah, I think it was because Fury was up there on Saber, and they didn't want people to know that.
Okay.
And I'm not sure why Maria Hill would have been also
Because you can't have
impersonated.
Fury without him, like her, I guess. I don't know. Like,
But I
more
mean, like,
believable that it's him if she's
Maria
with
just
him.
sitting at home on the couch.
Right. Okay, so
she's on
Gregory
vacation.
says, I enjoyed the beginning of what looks like a new take on the spycraft genre. Is it really though?
No.
It doesn't feel like a new take though. It was like the first Mission Impossible movie mixed with Daniel Craig Casino Royale and Alien Nation. If y'all remember Alien Nation, I do.
Yeah.
Was that was James? Who was that? James? Oh my God, what is his name? Did he die?
Alien Nation. Who was that? Let me look it up. Alien Nation.
I never
Remember-
watched that.
Is that a movie? The movie or the series? It was a movie based on the
James
series?
Caan.
Or the series is...
Yeah.
It
was a movie.
It was a movie, then a TV series.
Yes.
Yeah, then
and
a
in the
TV
movie,
series.
it was James Caan.
Yeah.
And Mandy Patinkin. That's it. Terrence Stamp. There we go. That was a good movie. Making me want to go watch that. But yes, I remembered that. It's James Caan is not dead, is he?
No.
Yeah.
Is
he
he?
just died. Yeah, like recently.
That's right, because he was he's also the Godfather movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's right. He died last year.
Yeah, I mean,
I
was reminded of, like I said, like in that first scene, especially with Richard Dormer, like I really like it set me up. I was like, man, this is gonna feel like some, like I said, Manchurian Candidate or like 7 Days in May or like that kind of shit, right? And like I don't know, like it didn't really live up to that, but then it did then kind of go. I can see the Casino Royale comparison, like, but I mean, I would say like it reminded me more of like Men in Black.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
like the scene where
It's
Will
not good.
Smith. What would you say?
It's not, to me, it's not as serious as that other stuff. It does have a more of a Men in Black. It's just not yet
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
anyway. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and
Um,
like that scene where Will Smith is in the beginning is chasing an alien, and then that's what convinces Men in Black that he
mm-hmm.
could do it because he
Yeah,
kept up with this alien.
yeah.
Like that scene with Ross being chased felt very much like that.
So then he says, I hope y'all talk about everything in the bar. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I wasn't interested,
Same.
genuinely.
Sorry.
Like I mean I like that's the problem is like I didn't like the setup. Like I feel like maybe the editing is the problem that I have, you know, and not so much the writing, but like him just walking into this bar and starting an argument with a guy at the bar. I don't know. It felt very like out of place,
Yeah.
and then because so like I don't remember the content of the argument, but it was something, and then he just kind of like leaves the bar over to like where Maria Hill is sitting there with a chessboard already set up, and I was just
Yeah.
like, did we know she was gonna be here? Like, I don't know. It just felt. I felt like they were like the world didn't exist outside of this bar. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like it didn't feel like there was anything connecting anything between a lot of these scenes. They just felt like nothing connected anything. It just people just show up in places, and I'm just like, all right, like I guess that's your choice that you're
Yeah.
making.
Sorry
But
about
like
that,
you have to
Gregory.
show. But that's like you have to show. That's one of the things that I think. What was it? Was it Hitchcock who said that? Like you want to show the scenes where you're going between places, right? Like I think it was it Vertigo where
Mm,
like you see the scenes where they're driving in the car
hmm
and you're just like, why would you want those scenes? And it's like you want to establish where your characters are and why they're there and how they got there. Like and you don't have to do that every time, but like it's nice to do it sometimes. And it just feels like this show eschewed that. You know, they're
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
we don't want to do that. We don't want to. We're just going to go from scene to scene, and you'll figure it out. And it's like on the one hand, I'm like, yeah, I appreciate when you let the audience figure some things out, but on the other hand, like sometimes storytelling needs pieces.
Mm. Yeah, sorry about the bar scene, Gregory. It didn't like grab me enough.
Right.
I like when he offered her some popcorn and she was like, sure, why not? She's like, fuck it.
And
She's
I
so
did
upset.
like,
She's like, I
I
know I'm
did,
on keto, but I'm gonna eat some of this popcorn.
and I did like that Maria, like I did like the relationship that she was comfortable in telling him like, hey,
hmm
you're not doing well.
Right, right. You look like
like,
shit. No.
like you're aging and I'm aging, but you're aging. Uh, apparently, I didn't notice that, but
I
you
do not know why this girl got this man's name tattooed on her face. You fucking idiot.
who are you talking about?
Sorry, Zion, the Mariah Mills girl. She's
Oh,
that whole thing. Anyway,
wow.
sorry about that. Finally, Gregory says, I hope Gaia and Monica get to reunite at some point. They were playing together in Captain Marvel. Yeah, I don't know like what that would do for the Marvels, like how that would play into what's going to be upcoming with that. And I feel like wasn't the Marvels pushed back?
No, that's
It's
still coming.
no, I mean
No,
it's
I mean yeah, it's coming out in November.
Yeah, it was swapped, right? Like it was gonna come out.
it's
They
coming out in November,
swapped
but I
it.
mean it was originally supposed to come out earlier.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I think they swapped it because which one did they swap it with? They swapped it with something I think because of Loki season 2.
Either Ant-Man or
Yeah,
Guardians. It had to be.
I feel like they swapped it with Ant-Man. I think
Probably.
because Loki season 2 is coming out and they
That makes sense
I, yeah,
because of the Ant-Man villain.
yeah, because
And
Kang is there.
Loki is October, so it's before the movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's why they pushed it back to. I don't think they pushed. I mean, I don't know. I'm not in the fucking room where it happens, like Hamilton, but I, my assumption is that the reason they moved it to November is because they wanted to swap Ant-Man before
Hmm.
Loki.
Hmm. Well, we ain't getting some shit for a while, so let's just appreciate what we are getting. Because uh, some stuff is, with the things and stuff going on. Um,
The stuff and
other
things.
the stuff and things. Although we are getting a lot of TV stuff, so I'm looking forward to. Very much looking forward to Loki. Looking forward to the rest of this. I hope it improves. It was enjoyable. I liked it, but it could be better. And at the most, it's not like a huge investment. There are 5 more episodes left. We'll see. Samuel L. Jackson is still a delight. It's always fun being in the Marvel universe too. That like the references and stuff, like what did you buy for your midlife crisis? What did you get? The Avengers, like stuff like that.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
I like stuff like that. I'm a sucker for that. So it's nice to be back in the universe. It's nice to be back with some of these characters. And they did kind of set up with the death of Maria Hill. Again, it's not like a huge death in terms of like an important major character, but there's somebody who's been there since, almost the very, very beginning, at least the beginning of the Avengers. And it just kind
11
of
years.
sucks, yeah, to see them go. And it's just a reminder that we these phases are, that they phase into other things, and that not everybody is going to continue on. And yeah, so rest in peace to her.
Yeah, and
um
that's the value of the MCU, right? Like it's so like ingrained.
mhm.
Like it's been going for 15 years.
You kind of take for
And
granted that people are going to be there.
right, and like Samuel L. Jackson's been there. Like now I mean, if you don't count like John Favreau, who was also
Mhm.
in that movie, but
Yeah,
like John Favreau's not consistent. Like
right.
fucking Nick Fury and Samuel L. Jackson, he's been in like fucking 15 movies or
Yeah,
something. So
yeah.
like he's been there for so long.
And I would
And
argue that John Favreau's character, no shade to him, is not as vital as Nick
yeah,
Fury.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's whenever he shows up, it's more of a cameo. Like he became bigger in the Spider-Man movies,
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
but like yeah, he's more of a cameo when he shows up.
Hmm.
Like Nick Fury is obviously Nick Fury.
Right.
And like so it does feel good. That's what I mean. Like there's so much goodwill that I had. Like so
Hmm.
I even with the issues that I had, I really enjoyed watching it. Like I enjoy everything that Marvel does. Like similarly, like I enjoy Star Wars shit when
Yeah,
it
yeah,
comes
yeah,
out. Like
yeah.
it just there's value in like being in a world of like familiarity and something that you, even if this one thing isn't the best thing, you have the connection to other things that were the best thing.
I gotta figure out. I'm sorry. This was just like a thought that I had when we were talking. That I keep saying like I'm gonna watch Andor, and so I need to. My flight is in 5 days, and I'm like, I need to figure out what the fuck I'm gonna watch on this flight. Like, this is the part where I need to start figuring out like downloading videos and stuff like that, because it's a scam. Let me tell you, it's a scam really quickly. I feel like I could pay for internet, right, on the plane. I think it's something like $40, like for like, and I think it's just like because I'm one airline the whole way, but it don't work at certain altitudes
Mm-hmm.
and certain, you know what I mean? So like, I found that out the hard way when I paid for internet when I went to Hawaii. And I paid for that shit, and then we got to like a certain spot over the waters, and they were like, "Yeah, well, they don't work." I'm like, "You motherfuckers!" So for like hours, you just don't have access to internet that you paid for. Um, so it's like I was tempted to buy it so that I could, and then you can't do stuff like, um, it's only good, I think, for like texting and stuff like social media, but you can't stream, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would want to stream, like I'd want to be able to watch stuff. So now I got to sit here and be like, okay, what can I download off Netflix? Like, what is it that is there something I've been meaning to watch? Now would be a time to like download these episodes. On the way here, I downloaded Beef. And although I think I only ended up watching like, and then I downloaded some like YouTube reactions, like stuff like that. Oh, my food is here. Hold on a second. Y'all talk amongst yourselves. I'm coming, yo. Oh.
We don't have nothing to talk about.
Nope. Life sucks.
It's always good to have stuff to edit out.
Right.
Okay, I'm coming. Oh, my food is here. That was fast. Okay, I'm back. Anyway.
Yeah, we didn't say shit. So.
Y'all are terrible. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I mean, well, you were in the middle of a conversation, and it was like, I don't know what to say.
As many times as Donnie interrupt me when I'm talking, he ain't had nothing to say.
Nope. I mean, I did have something to say. I was like, but it was a question to you.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening.
Can you can you download offline from Disney Plus?
Good question. I don't know. Why? What's on Disney Plus?
Andor,
the thing that you were saying you wanted to watch.
I don't know. Good question.
I mean, you should be able to, but I don't know. I've never tried.
And then I looked up like what the movies are available.
Mm-hmm.
Not really anything I want to see. There's
Have you seen Creed 3? Have you seen that yet?
No, I haven't. That is one of the stuff. Is it good? I
liked it a lot. I mean, outside of like obviously the Jonathan Majors of it all.
Mm-hmm.
I thought Michael B. Jordan's directing was great. I really liked and you can see the anime influences. Like he's talked about it, and like when you watch it, you're like, yeah, you can absolutely see some anime in there.
Okay, maybe I'll watch that. Then you can download off of Disney Plus. So maybe I'll just download a few episodes of Andor.
Nice. I mean, you're gonna start watching that, and you're like, I wish I could finish this.
Then just download them all. You're gonna be out of like fucking a day.
Shut up. But you're right. I could download them all.
Because I mean, it's really good.
I saw the first 2 episodes and I liked it.
Oh, there you go.
All right. So maybe I'll do that. Well, American Born Chinese, I hear that's good too. And that's on there. All right, guys. So that is it. Thank you for listening. Donnie, do you want to do Black Mirror and From tomorrow?
Sure. We got to do Negan before the new episode too. Unless you want to just double up.
But yeah, let's double up. I'm cool with that. And I still got to record Demon Slayer finale this weekend with Kaylee too. That shit was so good.
Well, we definitely have to do From before the finale.
Yeah. So we'll do that Saturday night for you.
That works.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys for listening. As you heard, in the next couple of days, we'll have From 2 episodes of Dead City. Kaylee and I were going to be doing the Demon Slayer finale, as well as the next 2 episodes of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And Donnie and I are diving into Black Mirror. We're going to be doing it 1 episode at a time. And all of that stuff is going to be up between now and my flight home next week. That's your content. And then once I'm home, we'll be back into covering Secret Invasion, Sweet Tooth, and some other stuff. So check the schedule. It is updated. Thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll talk to you next time.